In this world, there are magicians, necromancers to be precise, who use corpses to create their own knights and feature them in tournaments. Even though the display and affair is brutal, it is considered the greatest sport in the world. People gather and cheer for the fighters as their knights decimate each other. Among the spectators is our MC, Usyu, who enjoys watching the sport and has taken a liking to it. 17 years later, Usyu has dedicated himself to making a knight of his own so he can participate in the war of corpses. But all of his attempts keep failing. His latest attempt appears to be the best one yet, but he still has no choice but to return to square one. To keep up with the bills, he works menial and lowly jobs like cleaning toilets and disposing of waste. Because of the huge prize money in sports, the number of necromancers every year keeps increasing. Young aspiring necromancers go to school to learn the basics of being a necromancer and the required hand signs to raise the dead. While others are attending classes, Usyu is busy cleaning floors and getting trashed. He works harder than his age and also tries to pick up knowledge from the necromancy class. He has a special note where he writes everything he manages to overhear while the students are learning. One evening, Usyu is minding his business and reading his notes when a mean and despicable lady, Kalina, shows up out of nowhere and punches Usyu to the ground with the help of her knight. Apparently, she hates his guts for being trash and has told him to leave the city countless times. Kalina claims Usyu was born in a garbage dump, and because of this, he doesn't deserve to live like others. Kalina also adds that his father was trash just like him, claiming that Usyu must have taken after his father. Kalina wants Usyu gone just because he looks dirty and ragged. Usyu manages to get back on his feet to defend himself, telling the lady that he is not trash. Usyu says no matter how he was born or raised, he is the only one who can decide the kind of person he grows up to become. Kalina mocks him, asking him if he thinks he is going to be accepted by everyone if he becomes a necromancer. Because of his boldness, Kalina orders her knight to trample upon him again. She reminds him that he is a piece of trash, who has no knight, and he is not supposed to be speaking where the big leagues are speaking. She mentions that Usyu has been trying to get himself a knight for over 10 years, but has failed repeatedly. Kalina urges him to get out of the city because the next time she lays her eyes on him, it is over. She threatens to trash him and send him 6 feet below if he refuses to leave. Even though Kalina threatened him, Usyu always remembers the words of the greatest necromancer, Raphael, who said he is the only one who can decide who he becomes. Raphael was also a poor dude who came from nothing, and he entered the War of Corpses all by himself. He worked hard and achieved a great record of 6 wins, leading him to become the ultimate human on the planet. Usyu has always modeled his life after Raphael so he can get people to acknowledge him just like they did Raphael. However, Usyu is always waking up from strange dreams of dudes telling him that he can never be great like Raphael. Later on, Usyu visits the necromancer shop, and after walking around for a while, he complains about the lack of quality in the shop, saying there is nothing usable for him there. Suddenly, he spots a female-shaped body, missing its left arm and right leg. He immediately calls the attention of the shop owner to this, and he tells him that the body is nothing but scraps for disposal. Usyu points out the human-shaped body, and the shop owner says it's a bit special, and it has been on the market for close to a year. In this time, it has been sold 13 times already, but no one could ever get it to move, and this is why it was returned every time. Usyu asks the shop owner how the body is still intact, since failed materials usually harden like stone and end up breaking. The shop owner reveals that the body didn't move at all, claiming that there are materials that come out defective every few years. The shop owner then asks him if he is interested in buying the body, since he plans to throw it away. He promises to sell it super cheap for him, but tells him that he won't get the chance to return it. Usyu takes a closer look and points out that the body's hand is strange. The shop owner then reveals that, from the reports, she was a very famous mercenary in her lifetime and could smash anything with just a single punch. After thinking over it for a minute, Usyu tells the shop owner that he doesn't need it because she is a big risk. Necromancers have failed to make her move 13 times anyway. The shop owner understands Usyu's fear and says trash is trash in the end. The moment Usyu hears this, something lights up inside him, and he ends up buying the body with every bit of money he has with him. He doesn't even have the money to buy food the next day, not to mention the week's rent. Even though he believes that the chances of being successful are risky, he still goes ahead to put in effort. He attaches an ugly arm and leg to the body. Since the shop owner called it trash, Usyu begged to differ. He is ready to put his all into it so that they can both become the best and receive their accolade from the whole world. Usyu does the usual hand signal and sends his magic into the body, and it lets off a bright light that almost sets the room ablaze. The body lifts off the table, shocking Usyu, who believes that he has become successful in raising the dead. However, Usyu gets the biggest surprise when the lady opens her eyes and, with a subtle voice, she asks Usyu who he is. He freaks out and screams, causing the lady to also scream out in reaction to this. Usyu grabs a knife and asks the lady how a corpse like her is able to speak. The moment the lady hears this, she loses it, and she sends a punch his way. Usyu watches as a dangerous uppercut makes its way toward him, destroying everything in its path. The punch knocks him out completely, causing him to fall into the usual dreams of his mind, telling him that he is trash and can never be as great as Raphael. When he finally snaps back to reality, he assumes that what happened with the corpse was nothing but a dream, since corpses are not supposed to speak. Suddenly, he hears the lady talking to him, telling him how lucky he is that her right leg isn't working, which is why she missed her punch. The moment Usyu sees this, he freaks out again and falls off the chair. The lady tells him to keep his mouth shut and be quiet. He tries to run away, and this is when he realizes that he is actually tied to the chair. He asks her what she is up to, but the lady throws the question back at him, asking him what he is up to. With a stern face, the lady asks Useo what he has done to her body because he definitely won't miss a second time. This is when Useo looks around to see a massive hole in the floor, showing just how lucky he was that the lady missed her punch. Useo has no choice but to start confessing, and after the lady has heard his confession, she expresses her shock that he is nothing but a necromancer and not some perverted maniac. Useo asks the lady why she thinks she is some kind of creep, and the lady tells him to look at his so-called room. The lady finally comes to terms with her death, but she thanks Useo for reviving her and tells Useo that it would be good for them to go their separate ways. Useo is shocked that the lady is just trying to leave, and he is forced to remind her that she can move her left arm and right leg since they were not originally part of her body. Usyu then shows her that he is the only one who can move the replaced body part with his necromancy skill. Usyu boasts, telling the lady that no matter how strong she is, she still needs his help, but this triggers the lady and she grabs a knife from the table. Without hesitation, she chops off the replaced leg while telling Useo that she is Eleonora, the most beautiful warrior on the entire planet. She assures Useo that even if she has no limbs, she still doesn't need Useo for anything. She starts walking, and just before she walks out the door, Useo desperately tells her that he is going to hire her. This catches Eleonora's attention, and Useo continues by saying he heard that she was a mercenary who fought for money when she was alive. He adds that Eleonora also sold her corpse after death, which is a sign of desperation for money. Putting all of these together, Useo assures her that he is ready to hire her. Useo tells Eleonora to fight with him, and she admits that he is right. She lets him know that as long as the pay is good, she doesn't care who she has to kill or whatever fight she finds herself in. In addition, she is driven by the determination that she has a huge debt to pay. Useo then makes his offer, telling Eleonora that he is willing to hire her for 80 billion gold coins. He asks her if the said money will be enough to cover her debt profile. Eleonora replies that it should, but at the same time, she doubts the fact that Useo even has that kind of money. Useo then asks her if she is aware of how huge the prize money for the year's tournament is. He shows her the amount that would go to the winner, and it amounts to 100 billion gold coins, which is a shocking amount of money. Eleonora expresses her shock over how much the money is, and Useo explains that it is the most famous sport in the whole world as of the moment. Eleonora reveals that she never had the talent for necromancy, which is why she didn't even bother to look at the way things are being run. Useo tells her that she is basically a type of corpse knight, which will make it easy to enter the competition as long as they hide the fact that she is actually alive. He assures her that they have nothing to worry about, and they might even have the chance of winning if they work together. He tells her that they are going to become beings who are applauded by the whole world. Eleonora basically tells him that she doesn't care about fame, but asks if he is giving her 80% of the prize money. Useo confirms this, saying it's the best offer that she can get. However, Eleonora drives it up and demands for 95% share instead. Useo is shocked to hear this, and considering the cost of materials, he decides to negotiate it back to 85% instead. Eleonora negotiates it back to 95% and makes sure to stand her ground that this is the amount of money that she wants. Realizing that he can't push her out of this zone, he agrees to take 5% while she takes the lion's share of the money. Eleonora then suggests that they write up a contract because she is not the type to trust words. Later on, as they walk through the streets, Useo asks her how she feels as she walks, and she coldly replies that he is slowing her down. She is also wearing a weird mask, and she demands to know why she has to wear the mask. Useo then reveals that it is a basic rule given to them when using human-shaped materials. They are required to cover 80% of their faces so that no one can identify them. He then reminds Eleonora that she must not allow anyone to know that she is alive. Eleonora argues with him, saying she has a beautiful and precious face. This then reminds Useo to warn her that she is not allowed to speak too, because knights don't talk. Suddenly, a voice echoes from behind, calling Useo's name, and it turns out to be Kalina, who asks Useo why he is still in town even after warning him. Useo almost craps his body when he hears the lady's voice, and when Eleonora asks him who she is, he basically assures her that he is going to handle it, so she has no reason to interfere. Kalina is surprised that Useo has managed to raise a knight after struggling for over 10 years. However, Kalina decides to mock Useo's knight, saying she is as ugly as him. Kalina decides not to beat Useo up, saying it would be more fun watching him get crushed in the tournament. Eleonora cannot sit around and watch someone insult her, and she replies telling Kalina that she looks like a skin tag. The moment Kalina hears this, she turns around in anger and Useo realizes that things just got complicated. He berates Eleonora, reminding her that he told her to be quiet, but Eleonora replies, telling Useo that he is basically getting on her nerves. Kalina asks Useo if he is the one who just insulted her, and desperate to cover up the fact that Eleonora can speak, Useo takes the blame, saying it was he who insulted her. He even repeats the insult, and this angers Kalina, ultimately forcing her to send her knight after him. As the knight dashes toward them, Eleonora prepares for a counterattack, and she tells Useo to support her right foot properly. Eleonora and the undead knight then throw a punch straight at each other. Taking a dive into Kalina's backstory, she was a person who had a bit of talent compared to others. With her talent and moderate effort, she was able to achieve moderate results. Since she believes that she is on top, she looks down on others who have not been able to achieve what she did. Using this, she boosts her own self-esteem, making it the greatest joy of her life. On the other hand, Useo, who is considered to be trash, keeps working hard even when things are pretty tough. However, even with his hard work, he was always beneath Kalina, and she used this as an opportunity to mess around with him. However, things changed in an instant when Eleonora's punch cut through her knight, destroying it pretty easily. Kalina's subordinate is shocked when he sees this because Eleonora took down the knight with just a single hit, which has never happened before. Kalina cannot believe that she just lost to the one dude she is always spitting on. Useo proudly walks past her, asking if she has a problem with him beating her, but she can only freeze up in anger to prevent herself from getting spaghettified just like her knight. Useo wears a bright smile when he realizes that Kalina couldn't even say anything, and this tells him that fortunes might have changed his way, finally. As they continue forward, Useo tells Eleonora that they got lucky, but lets her know that what she did was dangerous. He tells her that fighting outside the competition is strictly forbidden because her identity might have been revealed. Eleonora is pissed when she hears this, asking Useo if he is trying to order her around. Useo is intimidated as usual, and he tells the lady that he is not ordering her around, but making a request of her. He tells her that she might be the best fighter out there, but when it comes to the War of Corpses, he is still the expert. Useo then reminds Eleonora that she has a debt to repay and they are not supposed to be acting so recklessly. Eleonora finally realizes what Useo is trying to say, and she tells him that she will try her best to stay under the radar. Eleonora asks him what is next on the list, and he tells her that it is time to go and register as a player, but he lets her know that her knowledge will be tested on a few basic things. Eleonora soon finds herself standing in front of 3 judges. The judges are disgusted by her dumb walk and suggest that she run. She tries running, but the synchronization between her and Useo is bad, and she ends up running in the creepiest way. The judges are freaked out, but since she is able to do the basics that are required and the fact that they need players to fill out the bottom ranks, they decide to accept Useo as a player. Useo ID is stamped, and he is given a black skull that recognizes him as a player. Later on, he puts on his player outfit, and he looks extremely excited as he stares at himself in the mirror. Eleonora notices this and points it out, and Useo admits that he is excited because it took him 17 years to wear the uniform. Eleonora doesn't really care about all of these, and she asks him when he plans to get her walking steps right. She tells him that if he is going to continue making her look clumsy, she might as well cut off the leg and fight on one leg instead. Useo tells her that she might be able to do this against humans, but knights are on a different level, and they surpass human strengths and standards. Useo assures her that she is never going to win on one leg, and this forces Eleonora to scream at him, telling him to get the rhythm right because he is always off. Useo screams back at her, reminding her that it is not his body, so there is no way he can be in perfect sync. Useo asks her if she is even trying her best to move in sync with him. Eleonora retorts, asking why she should be the one moving in sync with him, because he should be the one trying to match her. Before she can scream some more, the announcement comes on, telling them that the opening ceremony is about to begin, and all players are required to enter the arena. Useo then tells her that they are going to continue their conversation later, but urges her to put on the cape because for some reason they are required to cover their knight. As they walk through the crowded line to find their slot, Eleonora talks about the weird knights standing all around. Useo simply tells her to focus on their business and not make a fuss. He assures her that if she makes a mess in this type of environment, she is done for. The host comes on stage delivering his speech and telling the participants that the human body might be frail, but names are remembered forever. He says some are remembered only for a few years or decades, but there are others whose names will be remembered for a century. There are also the special ones whose names will continue to make waves even in 1,000 years, basically making them immortal. The host then tells the participants that he hopes someone of such magnitude is present among this year's players. With a convincing tone, he asks the players if they are all ready to participate in the tournament, and they all scream out in unison saying yes. With this, he declares the 145th War of Corpses tournament open. He then tells them that there are important things they need to know about the first preliminary round. He mentions that they want new players to be easily exposed to the audience in the first round, and they also plan to eliminate about 20% of the players. He shocks them, saying the method to do this is through random matching. Basically, first to win 2 passes and first to 4 losses is eliminated. This means the players pass if they manage to win just 2 matches and they have the chance to fight up to 5 times. The host then decides to spice things up by picking the first fighter of the round, and the fighter turns out to be Useo. Surprisingly, he is going to be fighting the ugly dude standing beside him. The dude teases Useo, telling him that he is such a lucky dude for being his first opponent, and he assures Useo that he is going to show him the beauty that he has created. Useo turns around to look at the dude, and the dude immediately assumes that Useo is staring at him because he looks horrible and ugly. The guy categorizes Useo as the same as everyone else. Before he can continue spewing his nonsense, Useo tells him that he is wrong because he was actually focused on his knight, commending the dude for making such a wonderful knight. Useo says the head might be large, but the muscles and skeleton around the neck are supporting it quite well. Useo can also see that the mouth area has been thickened to compensate for the weak skeletal muscles, which is typical of amphibians. However, even with all of these, Useo assures the dude that he is going to be the winner of the day. Nonetheless, he wants them to have a good match, and he stretches his hand to the dude for a handshake. The dude is totally shocked by this, and after shaking Useo, he screams out in excitement, saying it is the first time someone has offered him a handshake. The dude is impressed that Useo doesn't care about his face at all, and he admits that Useo is also cute. The dude then excitedly tells his toad knight to get ready so that they can show Useo the absolute beauty that he created. Not long after this, they prepare for battle. The War of Corpses usually goes through 3 preliminary rounds where a total of 1,000 players will be selected to advance to the main round. The rules for the preliminary rounds usually change every time, making it hard for players to prepare. However, the 2 wins first to 4 losses appear to be an easy format. Useo gives Eleonora a small skull-shaped magic device, which is a communication device. Useo says he has modified the appearance a bit so it is easy to wear on the ear. He tells her that she can communicate with him within 300 meters as long as she is wearing the skull-shaped earring. Useo mentions that the device is designed to transmit every kind of sound at a consistent volume that only the wearers can hear. It is basically a special feature that uses resonance magic for transmission. Eleonora wears the device and tests it out by calling Useo an idiot and asking if he can hear her. Useo replies that he can, and he urges her not to do anything weird. Useo reveals that he had to sell half of his furniture and materials just to be able to get the communication device, so he urges her not to lose it. Eleonora then asks him why they are not checking for things like communication devices, since the tournament is considered the most important thing in the world. Useo reveals that the competition values the individuality of the necromancer, and this is why accessories are generally allowed. However, the device is made so that the inside and outside of the arena are blocked by a powerful magic circle that prevents communication magic. And as it turns out, they are not communicating with anyone on the outside. Once they are both on the same page, the 2 step out to the arena. Useo is required to stand on the stage while Eleonora and the other knight duke it out in the arena below them. Useo nervously climbs up the stage since it is his first time ever. He's not surprised that there is no single spectator in the stands since it is the preliminaries and both he and his opponents are unknown. Once the referee confirms the readiness between Useo and his opponent, Wung, he declares the match open. Useo screams at Eleonora, telling her that it is time they show the world just how strong they are. Eleonora dashes toward the big toad, but she falls off thanks to the imbalance in rhythm between her and Useo. Eleonora is frustrated by their lack of understanding and she tells Useo that she is going to go ahead on her own while urging Useo to keep up. Eleonora runs toward the toad again, ready to finish it with one strike. Just as she is about to reach the toad leaps into the air, dodging her strike. Eleonora is shocked, and she admits that the toad might be large, but it jumps so high. Useo then reminds her that the key to winning the match is to destroy the opponent's knight's heart, which looks like a red bead. In return, Eleonora has to protect her own heart too. Useo mentions that they might have a strong one-hit attack in close combat, but when it comes to their defense, they are pretty open. Because of this, Useo suggests that they slowly analyze the opponent's attack techniques, but Eleonora cuts him short halfway. She tells Usu that wasting time will only give the opponent time to strategize, which will come at a disadvantage for someone like her who can't even run properly. Eleonora tells Usu that she is going to level the playing field by closing the distance. She leaps toward the toad, but just like before, the toad dodges her strike and jumps behind her. Usu is frustrated, since he can clearly see that Eleonora has no intentions of coordinating with him. The only thing she does is try to close down the toad with one functional arm and leg, making her very slow and predictable. In addition, Usu starts wondering what the toad's attack technique is and why it keeps running away. Suddenly, Usu notices the weird spores on the back of the toad. This is when Wong finally decides to show his hand, telling Usu that he is nothing but a weak competitor. The toad turns its back to Eleonora, and from inside one of the spores, a head emerges. Wong claims that this is the most beautiful thing he has ever created. Eleonora is shocked that she is staring at a face, and she reminds Usu that he said 80% of the face is supposed to be covered. Usu then reveals that what she is looking at is not a normal human face. Wong explains that the face is the culmination of beauty that he has created over his entire life, researching the most ideal and perfect proportions. He basically calls it the ultimate beauty, and it is not the face of anyone in this world, which is why he doesn't have to cover it. Proud of his creation, he decides to show them what it is made of, and the face flies toward Eleonora. This is when Usu finally figures out what the face is, and he screams at Eleonora, telling her to dodge because it is an explosive. Eleonora watches as the face dashes at her at a great speed, giving her little or no time to react. The next thing Usu sees is the explosion going off, and half of the arena is covered in smoke. When the smoke clears, Eleonora is seen sitting on her ass, and she is missing her left arm. Eleonora asks Usu if he was the one who blocked the attack, and he says yes. He had to sacrifice her attached arm, and he warned her not to get hit again because it would definitely be critical. Eleonora then mentions that the face was moving, and she asks him how Wong was able to move it. Usu then tells her that she is wrong because a body part separated from a knight's body can't be controlled, and it can only stay alive for a very short time. Because of this, the trajectory of the bomb will always be a straight line. Usu then mentions that the explosive was made by mixing the enzyme decomposition of poisonous amphibians, which is the type that only explodes at a large, sudden impact. Just as predicted, another face comes flying at Eleonora, and she is able to dodge this easily. With this in mind, she concludes that all they need to do is keep dodging it. Since she has not felt a huge thrill in a long time, she tells Usu that it is time for them to have a proper fight. Eleonora soon finds herself getting bombarded with several bombs, and Wong makes fun of her, saying she can't even walk properly, so there is no reason for her to keep running away. He is desperate to prove to them that he has created one of the magnificent knights that they can ever come across. He keeps firing the bombs at Eleonora, keeping him on his toes. While trying to escape one of the faces, Eleonora falls again, narrowly escaping death. Usu tells her that they can't continue this way because they definitely can't win if she can't run properly. Usu says he has been analyzing why their strides don't match, and the problem is their lack of trust. Usu says her right leg is part of her and it is natural for her to lean toward it. However, this is affecting her overall balance, and which is why she collapses every time she takes a step. Usu then urges Eleonora to trust him so she can run properly, and he urges her not to pay attention to her right leg. Usu is spitting facts until Eleonora cuts in, telling Usu that she can't trust him because she is the one risking her life on the battlefield, while Usu is behind, comfortably flicking his fingers. Eleonora gets back on her feet and continues the fight, while saying she doesn't trust comrades who don't risk their lives with her. Usu is left dumbfounded and can only watch as Eleonora suffers on the battlefield. Usu finally decides to open up, telling Eleonora that he is also on his last chance. He reveals how he was born in a garbage dump, and he is the trash that everyone hates. Usu says he lived his life as the son of a trash and he was constantly looked down upon. He was basically a ghost to everyone, and he always feels very miserable when he realizes that he is the trash that everyone talks about. Usu tells Eleonora that he has no reason to live unless he is able to prove to the man who looked down on him and the world that he has become the best. Usu is desperate to prove to everyone that they are wrong, or else he has no reason to exist. Usu confesses that meeting Eleonora is the last chance that he has been given, and because of this he asks Eleonora not to trust him but to trust his desperation. After hearing his genuine confession, Eleonora decides to take a step back and allow Usu into the fight. By doing this, she is able to take a step without almost falling off. Eleonora starts around the arena, and Usu celebrates this, saying she has finally decided to trust him. However, Eleonora urges him not to get the wrong idea because she doesn't care if his past is real or not. She lets him know that he has already saved her twice, and she is basically betting on the fact that he is going to do it again. Eleonora then mentions that their balance is not perfect yet, but Usu tells her that this doesn't matter because this is much better than before. In addition, Wong has used up half of his bombs already. Usyu lets Eleonora know that without the bombs, the toad is nothing but a big toad. With this figured out, Usyu suggests that they get a move on. Eleonora starts running around the arena, forcing Wung to keep firing the bombs at her. Before he knows it, he realizes that he has just 6 bombs left, and he starts to panic. He frantically shoots the bomb at her, trying to get her, while Usyu focuses all of his energy into making sure that Eleonora moves the right way. Before Wung knows it, he expels all of his bombs, and Eleonora finally goes on the hunt. She dashes toward the defenseless toad, and just as expected, the toad leaps into the air to dodge her attack. However, Eleonora and Usyu already anticipated this, giving them enough time to change directions just in time. Just as she gets close to the toad, a bunch of faces emerge from the spores again, shocking Eleonora. Wung laughs manically, telling them that they underestimated him. Apparently, he had hidden 10 bombs inside the toad's body, just in case things went sideways. Eleonora finds herself in a very tough position with all of the bombs heading straight for her at once, while Usyu celebrates that he has already won. Just before the bombs hit, Usyu's quick thinking comes into play, and he tells Eleonora to hit the ground instead. Eleonora follows his lead, and she smashes the ground with her powerful technique that releases a massive shockwave. Wung is shocked when he sees this, since he knows that it is not his attack that caused so much explosive damage. When the smoke clears, Eleonora is standing in the middle of a large crater, and she commends Usyu's effective judgment. Usyu figured out that with the power of her punch, she could trigger the bombs by hurling the debris from the ground at them. Usyu admits that it was a gamble, and he didn't know that Eleonora's technique was that powerful. However, there is a downside to the technique, and it turns out that the technique can only be used once because it involves channeling everything she has into her fist. After using the technique, her fist turns black, and it takes about 4 hours for it to return to its original state. This was when Usyu figured out that this is a technique that she can only use once per match. Usyu asked her what would happen if she used her fist again before the cooldown time. She reveals that her body won't be able to handle using it twice in a row, and her heart is going to explode, thus killing her. Since the technique has been used already, they are left with nothing. However, the same can be said for Wung. Since they are at a stalemate, Eleonora decides that it is time they engage in a proper close-quarters battle. After a fierce battle against the toad, she is able to destroy the red jewel, ultimately shattering the knight's heart and killing it. With this, the referee closes the match and declares Usyu the winner. Usyu screams out and celebrates when he is announced as the winner of the battle. He commends Eleonora, telling her that she fought really well. He glazes her, telling her that she is truly the ultimate warrior. Eleonora manages to contain her emotions before telling Usyu that he also tried his best because he had some unexpectedly good moves. Usyu is happy and suggests that they keep the momentum going. Just as he is about to leave the arena, he hears Wung mourning his knight, saying he made the most beautiful knight. Usyu then walks up to him, telling him that his knight was truly magnificent. Wung is shocked to hear this, and he has to ask again just in case Usyu made a mistake. Usyu confirms this, saying his knight was a beautiful one that showed his effort and passion, but his was just superior. Wung is blown away, and he admits that it is the first time someone has acknowledged him for making something beautiful. Usyu then tells him that there was one thing that was lacking. He tells him that the face he made for the bombs appeared to be too concerned with others' beauty standards. Usyu mentions that beauty is both subjective and objective. He tells Wung that instead of focusing on others, it would be nice if he could show the beauty that he sees from his own perspective. Wung is blown away by the suggestion, and he admits that he has never thought about it the way Usyu is putting it. Wung celebrates the new idea that he has just been given, and he assures Usyu that he is going to be his first fan and watch him climb to the top. Wung cheers Usyu on, telling him that he can make it, and this strikes Usyu in the deepest of places. Wung then adds that he will also create a more perfect and beautiful knight to surprise the world. When Usyu returns home, he complains about Eleonora's long name, saying it's inefficient. Because of this, he decides that he is going to shorten it to Eli. Eli screams at him, telling him that they are not friends yet and doesn't deserve to call her that. Usyu screams back at her, telling her to use her senses for once. He points out that every second in battle is crucial, and shouting her long boring name will only make things worse for them. He compares her long Eleonora name to Eli, and she finally understands what he means. Eli retorts, telling him to call her the short version only when they are fighting. Eli then asks him to schedule an opponent for their next match. Usyu reveals that they are usually given 1 week to rebuild their knight. However, the problem they are facing is that the opponent is randomly matched. Eli is confused, and she asks why this is a problem. Usyu then points to the skull on his chest, saying it is an identification card that proves that he is a necromancer. Because of this, they are expected to always wear it. Based on previous tournament performance, they are given a skull of a different color and shape. The 7th rank, the lowest, is the black-colored skull, which is the one Usayu is wearing. After this is the 6th rank, which is bronze, and this is reserved for those who make it to the 2nd preliminary round. The 5th rank is the silver rank, and this is for those who made it to the main round. There is the 3rd rank, which is diamond, and it is reserved for those who made it to below the 36th place. Then there is the 2nd rank, which is emerald, and it is reserved for those who made it below the 11th place. The rank 1 is ruby, which is reserved for those between 10th place and 2nd place. And last but not least is the rank 0, which gets the onyx, and without a doubt, this is the champion. The shapes all have different colors and shapes. After Usayu's explanation, Eli figures out that based on previous tournament results, the higher the rank, the stronger the opponent. Usayu tells her that she is right, and since it is random, a bronze, the 6th rank, can find themselves going up against a diamond, the 3rd rank. Usayu says they might end up being extremely unlucky, and they would have to fight an emerald of rank 2. Eli admits that it is going to be trouble if they go up against someone stronger, since her movements are not even perfect yet. Usayu then decides to check out who their next opponent is, and the moment he opens the envelope, his eyes light up in horror. Meanwhile, his opponent, Ral, has also learned that he is going up against a nobody named Usu. His attendant tells him that there is no information on Usu because it is his first time participating in the tournament. Ral smiles when he hears this because he considers it an easy win. After all, he is a ruby, rank 1 necromancer. Ral is known as the impregnable wall who has won the tournament in the past, leaving people cheering for him. In fact, he has won the tournament twice, leaving countless fans sharing his glorious and honorable moment. Ral was enjoying the fame and glory that came with being a champion until he came crashing into the 1st rank. Ral is munching on his food when he remembers that Just Good Life was when he was a champion. He calls on his assistant Sophie to ask her about the number of fan letters he has received for the month. Sophie informs him that the total number of fan letters he has received for the month is just over 1,200. Ral is shocked when he hears this, and Sophie lets him know that it is a 15% drop since last year. Ral is horrified when he realizes that the prediction that there will be a 15% drop every year if he fails to become a champion again is coming to reality. Without a doubt, he can see that the numbers are not lying. Ral then asks Sophie what the media and analysts are saying about winning the tournament in the current year. Sophie calculates the probability and tells him that he has a 2.7% probability of winning, further horrifying the dude. He smashes his fist on the table in rage because he realizes that everyone has concluded that he is incapable of winning. However, he is hell-bent on proving to them he is still strong enough to win. He then confirms the name of his preliminary opponent, which is the unlucky Usayu. Sophie tells him that there is no data on Usayu, since it's his first time competing. However, based on previous data, there is a 99% chance that a first-time competitor won't be able to effectively counter his techniques. Ral plans to increase his chances of winning by showing everyone the overwhelming difference in power. He wants to take it to the very extreme so that there won't be anyone to deny his greatness. On the other hand, Usayu is working on Eli's arm when he tells her about Ral. Eli laughs at Ral's name, but Usayu tells her that Ral is not an opponent that they can ignore. Usayu reveals that he placed 10th in last year's competition, and he has also won twice before, which basically makes him a skilled player. Usayu then mentions that there are only 2 ways to determine the winner and loser in the War of Corpses. The first and popular method is to destroy the opponent's knight's heart, and the other way is to surrender. However, surrendering doesn't just mean surrendering because it basically means giving up on the entire War of Corpses. And once this happens, only the results up to the forfeited match are recorded. As expected, the next match doesn't happen, and the player gets hit with intense criticism. When Eli hears this, she admits that the War of Corpses is an insane sport than what she even imagined. It's basically saying they have to fight until one of them dies. Usayu agrees to this, saying a knight is nothing but a tool. However, this is different for Eli because if her heart is destroyed, it spells death for her. And this time, it is going to be permanent, which makes the entire situation delicate. Considering the risks attached to this, Usayu asks her what she plans to do. Eli asks him if he is suggesting that they back out because the opponent appears to be strong. Eli smiles, telling Usayu that he actually underestimates her and what she can do. Eli reveals that she has lived her whole life in the wild, killing just so he can repay her debt. After all, she knows that she has no choice but to defeat the stronger guys if she ever wants to win. Eli then tells Usayu that risking her life is nothing to her, and because of this, she warns Usayu not to forfeit without her permission. Usayu smiles when he hears this because this is what he has been hoping she would say. Usayu reveals that he is also on his last chance, and because of this, he urges Eli to prepare very closely alongside him, since it might be their last ever match. Shortly afterward, the tournament workers are seen cleaning and talking about the next preliminary match, which is between Usayu and Ral. It turns out that the arena is packed with people because Ral is competing. One of the cleaners mentions how entertaining Raul's matches used to be. However, he thinks Raul's prime is in the past already. He reveals that his skills have been on the decline, and he barely made it to the 10th position in the last tournament. The dude continues with his harsh and bitter words, saying there is a report that once a necromancer is on the decline, they will continue to decline. Unfortunately, Raul enters the room at this time, and he hears the harsh comment from the cleaner. This hits him deep, and as he stands at the entrance of the arena, he takes a pause to motivate himself that he can do it. The moment he steps out, the crowd goes nuts as they start to cheer him on. Eli is surprised that there are a ton of people present for the match, even though it is just the preliminaries. Usiu tells Eli that this is because Raul was once a champion. As Raul steps on the podium, he roars his usual theme phrase, which is, "The true measure of strength is not how you attack, but how you defend." He continues glazing himself, talking about how he is the shield and the crowd is backing up his every chant since it is locked up in their brains already. After he is done chanting and hyping up the crowd, he finally makes the necromancy hand gesture to unveil his enormous knight. Eli is shocked when she sees a giant wall standing in front of her. Usiu then reveals that what she is looking at is a combination of numerous materials and living creatures, ultimately creating a living wall and shield. Usiu reveals that the outer wall hasn't been breached by any physical, chemical, or magical attack in the past. In fact, it is quite dangerous for one to attack it carelessly, because only the attacker's weapon will be damaged, which will put them at a disadvantage. Usiu believes that no matter how strong Eli's punches are, she won't be able to break through the outer wall. Usiu reveals that they only have one chance, and because of this, they need to somehow attack the main body behind the wall. Eli believes that it should be an easy task, since the knight is big, which means it must be slow. However, Usiu corrects her belief, telling her that the reason the wall itself is dangerous is because of its overwhelming size. Just as Usiu has said, Eli witnesses just how dangerous the wall is when it comes falling toward her with the aim of trapping her underneath. The moment Usiu realizes that Eli is trapped and getting overwhelmed, he activates the grapple hook attached to her left arm and uses this to get her out just in time before Raul's knight crushes her. Eli is thankful to be alive, and she admits that the arm is pretty useful even though she is having issues with the landing. Usiu is glad that she sees the essence of the arm and lets her know that he told her beforehand about it. However, he lets her know that they can't fully rely on the arm since it is made out of cheap materials, which will definitely give it substandard performance. Nonetheless, the grappling hook can close a distance of about 5 meters at once. Because the knight has flipped over, Usiu believes that they finally have a chance to finish it off. Eli attaches the hook to the knight and closes the distance, hoping to crush it once and for all. As she gets closer to the wall, Usiu warns her about attacking because no one has ever broken through the wall. The moment Eli gets close enough, the wall unleashes an extension of itself with the aim of trapping Eli. Usiu is shocked when he sees this, and Eli soon finds herself in a delicate position. She is forced to ask Usiu how the knight has such agility. Usiu explains that the art of moving a knight is like delicately sensing and coordinating every single capillary of another person. Usiu explains that when the gastrocnemius muscle is tense, the Achilles tendon is pulled and the heel is lifted. He further reveals that failure to correctly control the erector spinae muscles will result in the loss of control over the upper body. Usiu says this kind of operation becomes even more difficult the more varied the moving parts are and the larger the size, which means trying to move a large knight is not an easy task. Usiu is impressed with the fact that Raul can easily move such a large knight and even break them into pieces to move them individually. This is the first time Usiu has seen Raul move like this, and he can clearly see that he came prepared for the match. On the other hand, Raul is pushing himself really hard, and the blood coming out of his nose is a testament to this. He is ready to go to extremes to have everyone acknowledge that he possesses an overwhelming power. Before Eli knows it, she finds herself in the middle of what can be described as a huge mouth closing down on her. Usiu can easily figure out that Raul is trying to trap Eli by making a box with the walls. Usiu knows that the moment he is successful with this, they are done for. Prepared to stop this, he tells Eli that he is going to throw her, and he urges her to jump. Usiu frantically throws Eli in the only direction that his brain can think of. He misses his target, causing Eli to scold him, but he argues that it is hard for him to see, which is why he can't aim properly. Eli then screams at him to try again because the walls are closing down on her. In the last second, Usiu is able to get Eli out of the tight situation. Eli gets some distance between herself and the knight, but there is really not much distance, since the knight is dominating basically the entire arena. Nonetheless, Usiu believes that there is going to be an opening, and he urges Eli to keep going. Eli is on board with him, and she dashes toward the knight again. She tries to get elevation with the grappling hook, but before they know it, they find themselves getting trapped again. Raul makes fun of them, telling them that they literally cannot breach his wall with their petty tactics. Before Eli knows it, She finds herself on the run again, while Uso tries to scout out an opening for them. He spots an opening on the right and tries to latch the hook to it, but this fails spectacularly. Uso then asks her about the right side, and she reveals that there is no space either. They keep trying several angles, but everything keeps failing, and the spectators are enjoying every bit of the fun. Suddenly, things go from bad to worse for Eli when the grappling hook breaks off. Uso is shocked when he sees this, and he agrees that it has limited their approach to the battle. Uso is forced to take a moment to think about what they are facing, and he admits that Raul's power is quite overwhelming. However, he is confident that there must be a way to break through it. Suddenly something clicks in his brain, and he tells Eli that they have been approaching the fight the wrong way. Uso reveals that no one has ever succeeded, but there is a certain condition that they were all missing. Eli asks him what the condition is, and he tells her that there is no guarantee that the wall is truly unbreakable. Eli then asks him what he is suggesting that they do. Uso says no one has ever broken through the wall, but he heard that a long time ago, a knight with special physical attacks managed to crack the wall as a last resort. However, everyone who has tried it again after this has all failed without even landing any damage. Because of this, attacking the wall head-on became a thing that no one considered again. Uso, on the other hand, thinks they might have a chance if they land the strongest attack in the world, which only Eli is able to deliver. Since this appears to be their only chance, Eli tells Uso that she doesn't mind risking her life for the chance. Eli prepares to take on the big wall, and Uso tells her the position of the main body from where he is standing. He tells her that he is going to mark it with her left arm and urges her to go for it in one shot. With their plan rock solid, Eli activates her technique, ready to land the strongest hit she can on the wall. She dashes toward the wall, shocking Raul, who thinks they have lost their minds. Since they have chosen death, Raul decides to make it fast, and he activates the compression chamber, ready to completely crush Eli. Just before the wall closes her down, Eli manages to land her overpowered punch on the wall. Before Eli's punch makes an impact, the scene transitions to Raul's past as he talks about how much effort he puts into necromancy. Because of his effort, the world was able to recognize his talent. However, for the past couple of years, he has been seen as nothing but a failure. He tells Sophie that the media and critics are all waiting for him to fail yet again, so that they can have something to report. Raul wonders what would become of him when he finally retires. Instead of giving up, he decides to join the tournament one more time and put his all into it this time. All he wants is to hear the applause just one more time. Now, in the present, the reality of that is starting to become shaky as Eli's punch lands on his knight, ultimately shattering it right in front of him. Everyone, including Raul himself, is left speechless because his supposed impregnable wall just broke apart. Uso, on the other hand, cannot believe that he and Eli just won again, and this time around it was against the famous Raul. Just when he is still trying to process the information, a clap echoes through the stands as the people cheer for him, telling him that he is nothing short of awesome. The people start focusing their attention on Uso, asking who he is exactly. Basically, everyone watching doesn't know, since it's their first time seeing him. Uso's eyes light up in sheer shock and admiration. When they return to the back room, Uso excitedly tells Eli how everyone was cheering for them. Just as usual, Eli tells Uso that she doesn't care about what other people say, although she is glad that she has been able to prove to Uso that her fists are the strongest in the world. Uso agrees with her, saying they were able to pull off something none of them could do. Uso is celebrating his win when Raul shows up, asking Uso if he thinks he is better since he did something no one could do in the past. He adds that Uso might be happy that he will be famous, but he warns him, telling him to be careful because the public will be more excited about his mistakes than his efforts. He also lets Uso know that the public will be waiting for his failures more than his successes. Raul then asks him a genuine and serious question. He asks Uso if he is truly ready for the blowback that comes with success. With a confident smile on his face, Uso tells Raul that he is ready. Raul is thrown aback by Uso's confident answer. He then tells him that they are going to wait to see how long his confidence is going to last. Raul tells Uso that the next time they meet, he is definitely not going to go easy on him. After saying this, Raul leaves, looking totally unhappy about the outcome. When Uso returns home, he drops a money pouch on the table, which is filled with gold coins. Eli asks him what the money is about, and he tells her that it is the prize money for passing the first preliminary round. It then dawns on Eli that Uso has won twice already, which means he is ready for the next round. Uso's face lights up in sheer happiness as he tells Eli that the money is the first money he is going to receive after he is recognized as a necromancer. Eli doesn't really care, and she is more focused on the next round of games. She believes that the second preliminary round should be in about 4 weeks, since some players have to fight 3 more rounds. Eli continues further, saying the first share of money is Uso's, since this is what they agreed on in the contract. She urges him to have fun with the money and urges him to spend it meaningfully. Usyu then asks her what she is going to be doing while they are out of action. Eli replies that she has no choice but to stay in the house, since her body is messed up, and she also has nowhere to go. Usyu thinks about this for a minute and then decides to help out. He digs into his ocean of knowledge and helps Eli create an arm that is similar to her original body type. Even though it is not entirely perfect, it looks amazing, and Eli loves it. In addition, Usyu got her some women's wear, and since it is his first time buying something like this, he is unsure if it's going to suit her. Usyu assures her that no one will know that she is a corpse knight if she wears the dress. Useu urges her to put on the clothes so that they can both go out to spend some money together. Eli asks him why he got her the dress, and he mentions that they earned the money together, so it is common sense that they spend it together. Useu lets her know that there is a lot going on in Necromancer City. Eli tries to contain her emotions but admits that Useu knows how to act cute sometimes. Eli then tells him to step outside the room, leaving Useu to ask her why he has to step out. Eli reminds the dull brain that she has to change and can't do that in front of him. Useu does as told, and after he is done wearing his own outfit, he stands by the door, waiting for Eli to step out. Useu starts to fear that the success he is just starting to enjoy might actually come to an end very soon. However, if he manages to win, he is going to command applause from the whole world. He is thinking about this when Eli opens the door to step out. He's about to scold her for taking so long when Eli's beauty leaves him starstruck. Useu is left speechless by how beautiful she looks in the dress. Eli doesn't initially notice this while asking Useu about the fun things that he was referring to. Useu finds it hard to close his mouth, while his entire face turns red from excessive blushing. When Eli sees this, she screams at him, asking him why he is blushing. She demands to know if he was having weird thoughts toward her, and Useu is forced to speak out, telling Eli that she is actually beautiful. He lets her know that he is a man, so it is natural that he finds her attractive. Useu also adds that the vibe is different now that she is putting on casual clothes. Useu talks about how charming Eli looks, and this leaves the girl stunned. She tries to hide her emotions by screaming at Useu, asking him what he is trying to do. She asks him if he is trying to confess his love for her while forgetting the kind of relationship they are in. Useu is shocked that Eli thinks he is trying to confess to her, and he lets her know that he has no intention of dating her. Useu admits that he was only stating his feelings from a biological perspective. Eli then asks Useu if he has any friends. Useu replies that he has no friends since they have all ignored him, calling him a piece of trash. Useu says his only friends are cockroaches and maggots. Shortly afterward, Useu takes them to what appears to be a fancy restaurant. Useu looks around the restaurant in amazement, and Eli calls him out for this, asking why he appears to be the one happy even though he brought her there. Useu confesses that he has never been there before, either because he obviously doesn't have the money. However, he lets her know that they are in one of the most famous restaurants in Necromancer City. Useu tells her that the skulls she is looking at are actually made from discarded ingredients. Eli is surprised to hear this because she never imagined that they were going to be real human skulls. Moments later, their order arrives at the table. Eli is initially thrown aback by the appearance of the dish. She is forced to ask Useu if the food item is alive, but he tells her that it is not. He explains that what she is looking at is pasta made from a unique ingredient called ghost potato. Useu further explains that it only grows in soil that has died and come back to life. It is a rare kind of potato with extreme regenerative properties. Apparently, its starch is mixed with finely ground basilisk eggshell, combined with various spices and magical ingredients. He lets Eli know that the constant contraction and expansion is what makes it look alive. Eli is blown away by the amount of knowledge he has on the dish. Useu reveals that it is one of the most famous dishes in the city, and he has always wanted to try it someday, which is why he did his research. Just then, he asks her if she can still taste food, since the dish is said to be best when it is squirming. He urges her to have a taste, and she hesitantly takes a bite, and to her greatest surprise, it tastes really good. Eli admits that she has never had anything like the dish before. She talks about the texture that gives the tingling sensation with every bite. In addition, she is blown away by the creamy smoothness combined with the deep umami of garlic. While she is busy analyzing what makes the food tick, Useu is gulping down his plate. Useu cannot believe just how good the food tastes. After leaving the restaurant, they see a dude selling handmade cotton candy, and even though it looks tempting, they don't oblige. Moments later, Eli sees a golden statue and she asks Useu about it. Useu explains that the statue is for last year's champion, Karen Crow. Useu reveals that she was just 19 years old and was the youngest winner in history. Useu explains that they usually make a huge statue of the winner and display it in the central plaza, so anyone visiting the city will see the statue and feel a sense of awe. Useu considers the feeling of being considered the best an incredible feeling that is second to none. Eli then notices something strange about the way she is pointing. She asks if she is making the hand gesture because she thinks it's cool. Usayu corrects her, saying it is not about looking cool. He reveals that the pose has an official name, singular focus stance. He explains that light movements of limbs and simple controls can be done without doing anything. However, when it comes to complex and varied movements of the corpse, the most effective pose when moving many muscles is to create a single form and focus. Usayu points to his fingers and tells Eli to think of them as the knight that he controls. Taking the stance means preparing for a real fight. Eli doesn't really buy everything that Usayu is saying and assumes that there is a reason for everything. In addition, she thinks it's pretty old-fashioned. Later on, the two go to the cinema together, and Usayu is extremely blown away by the action sequence happening in the movie. He finds it hard to contain his emotions as he starts screaming in the theaters. Eli begs him to watch quietly, while asking if it is his first time coming to the theaters. Usayu replies with a scream, saying it's his first time. Usayu says he never heard of money or friends, which is why he couldn't come to places like this. He continues screaming out his emotions while trying to get Eli to feel the same thing. Eli turns around to see just how innocent and pure the dude is. After they are done with the movie, they engage in several other activities over the next couple of days. Even with all of these, Usayu lets Eli know that there are a lot of places that they haven't been to. Eli is shocked to hear this because they have been wandering around for the past 2 weeks, leaving her to conclude that the city is extremely large. Eli had always believed that the city was just a place where necromancers lived, but with everything she had seen so far, the city itself was a culture and a way of life. She then adds that Usayu is an interesting person more than she even anticipated. Eli admits that she has never met someone as honest with their emotions as Usayu. She tells Usayu that he is both pure and kind, but he is an idiot. Usayu then returns the compliment, telling Eli that she is also pretty. Usayu says Eli claimed that she lived as a mercenary, but everything about her feels refined. Usayu is about to ask her something important when someone suddenly calls Eli's name from behind. Usayu turns around in shock and dismay when the person asks Eli how she is alive because they definitely watched her die. Usayu looks closely to see that the person appears to be a lady. Usayu realizes that things are about to go horribly wrong because he made a mistake. He totally forgot about the part where Eli was a famous mercenary, and there will definitely be someone who recognizes her. Usayu tries to salvage the situation by telling the lady that she has the wrong person because the person she is referring to as Eli is his sister. Eli quickly points out the obvious fact that they don't even look alike, and Usayu frantically changes the narrative, saying Eli is his wife, Sabrina. Even Eli doesn't expect this huge lie, and she screams out in shock. The lady doesn't want to believe this because there is no indication that they are a couple. The lady says Eli's former skin tone is a bit different, but she is definitely the same person she knows. She then demands to see their wedding ring since Usayu is claiming that Eli is his wife. Usayu comes up with another lie, saying he has an expensive custom ring, which is why he doesn't wear it around. In addition, Usayu asks her why she is so convinced that it is the same person that she knows. Usayu mentions that the human face has around 40 to 50 variables that define a person, which means the probability of someone having a similar face is 0.01%. Basically, Usayu is trying to say that there are at least 10,000 people who look alike. Using this analogy, he tells the lady that everything might be a coincidence. However, the lady refuses to believe that this is a coincidence because there is no way she is not going to recognize Eli. Usayu then decides to play the game of a fool, and he suggests that they ask Eli directly. He asks her if she remembers the person standing in front of her, and she takes too long to answer. With this, Usayu concludes that her answer is yes, but the lady is just too persistent. She tells Eli to show her fists if she wants to convince her. He reveals that the Eli she knew had calluses on her knuckles. The moment Usayu realizes just how persistent the lady is, he hits her with his shoe and then grabs Eli so that they can escape from the area. Eli tries to scold him for what he just did, but he urges her to run instead of complaining. When they finally return home, Usayu asks Eli about the lady, and she reveals that the dude's name is Neiron. She reveals that he is one of her mercenary comrades, an archer. However, she sees Neiron as a big headache. Usayu asks her why Neiron is a problem for her. He asks if she is her rival, but Eli says it is quite the opposite. Eli reveals that she saved Neiron a few times, and since then, Neiron has been following her to date her. This confuses Usayu, and he takes a minute to think about it. He assumes that Eli likes girls, but this is when Eli drops the bombshell, saying Neiron is a full-fledged dude, a man. Usayu's brain almost freezes from overload when he hears this because he cannot believe that Neiron is a man. Eli reveals that Neiron is obsessed with her, and even though she has made it clear several times that she is not interested, he keeps coming. Nonetheless, Neiron is the kind of guy who would do anything for her. Eli says there is a possibility that Neiron is still searching for them. She is pretty sure that he came into the city to search for her body. After hearing just how persistent the dude is, Uzu admits that he is going to be a pain in the ass for them. Uzu tells Eli that they might have to prepare for the worst, since Naren already knows what he looks like too. Although Usu is sure that Naren has no proof yet, so all they have to do is focus on their next match. Meanwhile, Naren is in his crib staring at Eli's image with a smile on his face and thankful for the fact that she is not dead. Naren assumes that Usui is a bad person who has done something bad to Eli. Since Eli has been the one saving him, he decides that this time will be different. Naren is prepared to sacrifice himself for Eli. On the other hand, the tournament director gets a report of how badly the tournament is performing compared to the year before. The director demands to know the cause of this, and the attendant says the biggest factor appears to be a shift in consumer behavior. The attendant says that the appearance of more players has caused the attention of consumers to shift toward just a few popular battles. Basically, the spectators are watching only the matches that they care about. Because of this, the average retention time has decreased, and people are opting for cheaper short-stay accommodation. Suddenly, a dude breaks through security and runs toward the director, screaming for him to read the article he wrote. The guards want to grab him, but the director tells them to let him be. The director then asks the small dude what the issue is. He reveals that his corpse knight failed to register as a player. He claims that the problem is not his corpse knight not being able to move, but the fact that it is all part of his strategy. He adds that it can also attack, and he demonstrates this by making his corpse knight shoot out a projectile from its mouth. The director notices the reaction of the attendants when this happens, and he decides to take another approach to things. He apologizes to the dude about his corpse knight not being registered. He admits that it was a mistake on their part and then tells the dude that he is going to be compensated for this. The director tells him that they are going to lead him to where he has to go, and the dude thanks the director for being kind. One of the attendants then led the dude away, and after he was gone, the director turned to the attendant who laughed and asked him why he laughed when the dude showed his corpse knight. The attendant apologizes for laughing, but claims the corpse knight is pathetic, which gets the director mad, asking him who gave him permission to decide this. The director says they are shaping culture and industry, and anyone who doesn't have in-depth knowledge of how to judge human worth shouldn't be working in the company. With a stern voice, the director tells the attendant to always remember that human strength comes from their deficiency. Because of how dumb he is, the director lets him know that he is fired. After leaving the dude behind, another attendant tries to call the director's attention to firing the dude on a whim. He claims that the dude who was sent off has talent for marketing, but the director says if the dude is passionate, he will come again, and if not, he has shown his limit. The director doesn't forget the security guards who failed their duties. He orders that they are all sent packing too. He also wants the head of the security division 2 to be reported to the disciplinary committee. Once he is done giving out his wishes, he orders that they gather all the personnel so that they can prepare for the second preliminaries. He reveals that they are going to do something that they have never done before, and this is all in an attempt to get people to become interested in the sport again. Later on, Usu is having a peaceful sleep, until the voice in his head appears again, calling him a piece of trash. The voice tells him that his mother was trash, and trash only gives birth to trash people. The voice tells him that no matter how much he struggles, he is always going to be a piece of shit. Useu argues that he is not worthless, and the voice's strength almost crushes Useu while telling Useu that he can never be great. Useu almost suffocates from this experience, forcing him to scream back to life. He turns around to see Eli sleeping, and he crawls up to her. Eli wakes up to see the dude close to her, and she screams, believing that he is trying to do something creepy with her. Suddenly, she realizes that Useu is bowing to her. With tears in his eyes and a sincere heart, he urges her to lend him her strength so that he can show the world that he is not a worthless piece of trash. Eli can see the sincerity in him, and she just pats him on the back. The next morning, Eli asks Useu if he is going to be able to participate in the fight with a clear head, since he was acting weird during the night. Useu is confused when Eli says this, and he asks her if he did anything weird. Eli is surprised that Useu doesn't remember anything when he was clinging to her and crying his eyes out. Useu doesn't believe this, and assumes that it is nothing but a bad dream. Eli decides not to argue any further, since the dude doesn't even remember. UCU then tells Eli to get herself ready for the next preliminaries because they are announcing the second round rules that very day. Not long after this, the players are sent the rules for the second round. They are shocked when they see the rules that the higher-ups sent out to them. When Raul sees it, he expresses his shock, saying that if the rules persist, even top-ranked players are going to get knocked out. Raul fears that his career is over if he loses. Just the same way Raul is worried, the other top players are also worried about the rules. Usiu screams out in fear, causing Eli to ask him what the problem is. Usiu lets her know that the rules are bad for them because they are supposed to fight in teams of 3. Even Eli is shocked when she hears this. She admits that it puts them at a disadvantage because they have it hard with communications already. Yusu agrees with her, but lets her know that the real problem is how the teams are formed. He explains that only one person ranked gold or above is allowed per team. This is when it dawns on Eli that having one gold or higher in a team basically means there will be more matches between high rankers. It simply means the organizers are prioritizing team balance over top players. UCU says this is the case, which is why it is pretty unusual. He believes that they are intentionally trying to boost exposure for new players by eliminating top-tier ones through team setups. Since this is the case, Eli asks him how they are supposed to form a team with the type of rules set out for them. She believes that people will naturally team up with famous players. Moments later, Usu and Eli head to the gathering of the players. Eli talks about the immense crowd there, and Usu lets her know that they have just 3 days to form a team. Once they form a team, they are required to fill out the red sheet form with the team members' signatures and submit it to the staff. Eli then asks him if he has anyone in mind, since it is negotiation-based. Usu smiles, telling Eli that she has nothing to worry about because they are going to come to him themselves. Moments later, Raul walks through the area and the players start asking Raul to team up with them. Eli starts to realize Usu's game plan, and she asks him if he is planning to team up with Raul. Usu admits that Raul has the best shield that no one else except them has been able to penetrate the wall. Usu mentions that their offensive abilities, combined with Raul's unbeaten shield, would make them unstoppable. Raul also notices Usu and Eli on the rooftop, and Usu waves to him, but Raul ignores him. Usu is shocked, and he deludes himself, believing Raul didn't see him. The following day, Usu still sees Raul, and he tries to get his attention, but Raul ignores him again. On the third day, Usu remains on the rooftop, desperately trying to get Raul's attention. Raul cannot believe that Usu is seriously believing that he is going to team up with someone like him. On the other hand, Eli is not surprised because she already knew that it was going to end that way. She then asks Usu what the next move is, since they have only 5 hours left until the team formation deadline. She believes that he must have planned ahead, but Usu shocks her, saying he actually didn't. Usu confesses, saying he never really had friends before, and the moment Eli hears this, she realizes that they are screwed. Before Usu knows it, they have just 3 hours left. Other players are also panicking and trying to find a team at the last minute. They come together, talking about the mind-blowing things that they have done. Most of the players with no teammates are between the black and bronze players. This means they either lack strength or they just lack the visibility that the other players have. In addition, most of them even have slight flaws when it comes to working in a team. There is a particularly strange old dude, Borak, who goes around telling the others that he has been in the field for over 30 years and has the experience. However, the young players are not ready to team up with him because, with his so-called experience, he has been stuck in bronze for 30 years. Suddenly, Usu catches everyone's attention when he screams in the air, saying he broke through Raul's wall. He lets them know that this is something no one else has ever done before, and he believes that it is awesome. Everyone immediately turns around to see the dumbass who is speaking, and Eli just holds her head in disappointment. The crowd is initially excited when they hear this, but they immediately water down Usu's feet because they believe that Raul is already on a decline. Some even say they are strong enough to break through Raul's wall because he is not the same person he used to be. However, one of the players approached Usu because of this, asking him if he would be willing to team up with him. Usu then demands to see his knight, and he shows Usu his pig-like knight, saying it can ram at top speed. He lets Usu know that it can even pierce through 5-meter-thick rock, and after a minute of assessing the situation, Usu simply tells the dude that they are not compatible. He urges him to look for someone else, but this pisses him off, telling Usu that he is not that great. A few more players show up to try and team up with Usu, but after checking out their knights, he rejects all of them because they don't meet the standards that he wants. On the other hand, the type of players that he actually wants don't want him because they believe that he is new to the game. Since he never had a companion in his life, it made it hard for him to be able to form a proper team. Usu soon finds himself stranded with no teammates at all, and the time is running out fast. A staff member comes on stage to tell them that they have just 1 hour left, and those who fail to form a team by then will be disqualified. This immediately makes things even harder. Eli scolds Usu, saying he kept hesitating, and because of this, they are stuck with no teammates. Eli then suggests that they give up and prepare for the next competition, since no one is ready to team up with them. However, Usu lets her know that this is bad for them because they are going to be disqualified. He lets her know that not only is disqualification disgraceful, but it also comes with a 10-year ban from re-entry. Eli is shocked when she hears this because they can't wait for 10 years, since it is basically a career-ending ban. Eli then asks him what he plans to do, and she suggests that they team up with anyone they can find. Osayu reminds her that they don't have the luxury to pick anyone because their lives depend on it. Osayu says he can't risk it because he cannot afford to lose Eli. Osayu tells Eli that they might not have time on their hands, but he is going to try and pick out the best out of the ones left. Just then, Usyu runs into two dudes, who ask him to team up with them. Usyu demands to see their knights. The green-headed dude shows Usyu his knight, saying he based it on a kraken that lives in the deep sea. He mentions that with its special ink, it can instantly block a wide area of vision. The red-headed dude mentions that his own knight can jam signals and do range attacks using blood. Usyu takes a closer look at the knights and realizes that they are definitely solid knights, and in addition to this, they specialize in defensive capabilities and the range attacks that the team needs. Realizing that time is going, he concludes that this is the best option that he has. Usyu then asks the two why they chose him over everyone else. The greenhead reveals that they chose him because of his powerful offense, which is strong enough to break through Raoul's wall. He adds that they don't have a one-hit attack like him, which is why they need him. After hearing their reason, Usyu finally agrees, and he shakes the dude's hand. The green-headed dude suggests that they start with a quick coordination. With 20 minutes left on the clock, Usyu is still discussing team coordination with the two. Usyu reveals that his knight's best technique can only be used once per match, and after this, there is a cooldown period for it. However, he assures them that the technique was powerful enough to break through Raoul's wall, which makes it pretty useful. The greenhead admits that it is a powerful technique, but he believes that they are going to be the ones to cover for it. Usyu then tells them that this is not the only technique that his knight can use. He assures them that Eli's general physical abilities are excellent so that they can be used effectively in various situations. The greenhead admits that Eli's one-hit power is really something interesting, and he asks Usyu how he plans to coordinate opinions during battle. Usyu then decides to explain to them how he plans to do this, and before they know it, they have 8 minutes left. Suddenly, the redhead tells them that he has to go to the bathroom. The greenhead tries to stop him because they need to finish up their discussion first. The redhead dashes off, saying he will be back in a minute. With 4 minutes left, Usyu asks the greenhead why his friend is not back yet. This is when the greenhead dude finally shows his true colors. He stands up and walks away. And this is when Usyu realizes that he was tricked. He turns around and he is shocked when he finds out that the two are Kalina's teammates. Kalina laughs at him, telling him that she intentionally told them to waste his time, since all tactics are allowed. Kalina laughs at Useo maniacally, telling him that he is about to be disqualified, since others have found a team too. Kalina walks away, while making fun of Useo, telling him that he didn't know his place, which is why he is going to suffer. Useo finds himself in a tight spot, since he has just 1 minute left, and a career failure stares him right in the face. In a desperate attempt to make sure he doesn't get disqualified, he starts running around, screaming, and asking if there is anyone who is without a team yet. Suddenly, Borak emerges in the distance, telling him that he doesn't have a team. With just 40 seconds left, the dude fills the team form with Usyu. Usyu then screams again, asking if there is anyone left, because there are just 10 seconds on the clock. In the last second, Usyu rushes to the staff to tell them that he has found a team. He submits the form just in time, and the staff commends him for scaling through. In the end, he was able to secure the signature of a timid player named Ira. Borak expresses his concern with the way he has been treated by the other players, even though he has been in the game for years. Because time was running out, Usyu couldn't ask them what their knights were. He finally asks Ira about her fighting style, but she remains silent. Useo is shocked that she is not saying anything, even though he is screaming at her. When the total tally comes in, out of 8,304 necromancers, only 5,000 passed. They also recorded 2 disqualifications, and this excludes the former champions who didn't compete in the preliminaries. In all, a total of 1,668 teams were formed during the matches. In the end, Useu and his teammates turn out to be the worst of all. However, Useu cannot be called trash, since he actually has the skills, but Kalina made sure she ruined things for him. Borak, on the other hand, starts to boast, telling his teammates that they are lucky to have teamed up with him because he considers himself to be the greatest of all time. Useu cannot believe that Borak is boasting about being stuck in bronze rank for 30 years. Borak still argues with this, saying he is not even up to 50 yet. This only adds to just how trash he is because Useu cannot believe that he has never made it to the finals in 30 years. In his defense, Borak says he has more experience on the team than Useu and Ira. He is also confident that he is going to make it to the finals that very year. He tells Useu that he is going to be the source of wisdom for the team, since he is the oldest on the team. Useu is tired of arguing with him, and he suggests that he produce his knight. Borak proudly unveils his knight that he has been forging for the past 30 years, the Cockroach Knight. Eli is horrified and disappointed when she realizes that Borak's prideful knight is just a giant, ugly cockroach. Borak tells the two not to underestimate his cockroach because cockroaches are the embodiment of survival. Borak explains that even though cockroaches lose their heads, they can still survive for days. He adds that cockroaches eat basically anything, and even when they are stepped on, It is hard for them to die, since they have no bones to break. Borak admits that cockroaches might be filthy, but the main point of the whole thing is that they know how to survive. He smiles while asking Usu if he finds their desperation to live admirable. Usu remains silent and believes that the dude is talking about himself. He has spent 30 years in the same rank, but he kept holding on, which shows his resilience. However, Usu cannot help but admit that the cockroach is decent. When it comes to the overall take on it, it appears to have solid fundamentals. However, Usu can see that it doesn't have any unique standout strengths. To avoid blowing his brain apart in trying to learn more about the cockroach, he suggests that they save the detailed strategy meeting for later. He then turns to Era, asking her where her knight is. Just then, a black big cat appears beside Era, and the moment the other two see this, they immediately come to the same conclusion, which is the fact that they are so screwed. Era then scribbles on her note, telling them that the cat is her knight. Later on, an argument ensues between Eli and Usu. Eli screams at Usu, asking him if he seriously believes that she is going to risk her life to fight alongside a cockroach and a dumb cat. Eli scolds Usu since he claimed he would pick a good team for her sake. Usu tries telling her that it is not his fault because it just turned out the way it did. Nonetheless, he suggests that shifting blame is not going to help them. Things have turned out badly already, and he lets Eli know that they have just 3 choices. The first one is to push through and come out on top, and the second is to die, while their third choice is to forfeit everything. With these options, Usu asks Eli what she wants to do. Eli takes a minute to think over it, and she tells Usu that they have no choice but to push through till the end. Soon afterward, the host welcomes the players to the first match of the second qualifying round. He informs the players that the team that loses all 3 members will be eliminated. Once he is done laying out the rules, he calls out the first team, which is Usu's team. Their opponents are Claude, Seren, and Bertor. The team is led by Claude, and he appears to be a dangerous fellow who takes pride in music. In fact, he and his team are taking the battle as a stage performance. Claude unveils his knight, and at first sight of it, Eli can see that the knight is strong, leaving her to wonder what the knight's fighting style is. To hide the fact that he is communicating with her, Usu wears a mask to cover his mouth. He is basically whispering through the mask so that the 2 standing beside him won't hear him. Usu tells Eli that they have held a strategy meeting, and from their conclusion, the cockroach appears to be agile and would be the one to roll out first. The cockroach will read the opponent's attack patterns and the overall feel. With this, they will be able to identify the strongest knight so that they can go after it and immobilize it. If things go as planned, it will create a 3 versus 2 in their favor. Eli asks Usu what the cat will be doing while she and Borak are fighting. Usu subtly tells Eli that the cat is out of the bag. Usu had asked Ira what her cat could do. Ira only scribbled on her note, saying her cat is adorable. Eli cannot believe that only she and Borak's knight will be the ones doing the fighting. Usu tells Eli that they should prepare for a worst-case scenario of a 1 versus 3 situation. To make sure that they have the edge, Usu suggests that they focus on sustained combat instead of mobility. To help with this, Usu has attached a sword to Eli's left arm. Eli considers this the right call too, since their combat power will drop after she uses her punch. Once the players are ready, the referee starts the match. Borak is the most excited player on the team, and he unleashes his cockroach, ready to show everyone the power that he has been trying to perfect for 30 years. The cockroach dashes toward Claude's knight, and Eli admits that the cockroach is faster than she expected. The cat, on the other hand, lies on the floor lazily. Claude doesn't appear to be scared or threatened one bit as Borak's cockroach dashes toward his knight. Seren and Bertor set the stage with their knights while Claude takes the lead. They turn the arena into a proper stage performance with Claude's knight dancing in the middle of it all. While approaching them, Borak believes that the knights handling the song and light look defenseless. He decides to move past the main lead and get to the other 2. He plans to take them down and show everyone that he is not useless. Before he can make it past the lead, the cockroach's head flies off its body, shocking Borak. It turns out that Claude's knight has a very long reach, thanks to her weapon. Claude makes fun of them for trying to get past him, the main character. The moment Eli sees this, she marks Claude's knight as her target and says it is best they eliminate it first. Eli dashes toward the knight at great speed, but before she can reach the knight meets her halfway with a long-range sword. Eli manages to block the hit with her sword too, ultimately saving her life. It turns into a fierce sword fight between the 2, but Eli gets overwhelmed and thrown to the ground. Eli lets Usu know that Claude's reflexes and reaction speed are well above their league. Eli adds that Claude is fighting with pure physical strength that they can't overcome in a short space of time. Usu agrees with her, saying Claude's reach is also longer than theirs. Because of this, it is going to be difficult for them to even get close to him. Nonetheless, Eli reminds Usu that all she needs is one shot to take Claude down. Eli observes his knight for a minute before indulging in the fight again. The fight turns out to be really intense for Eli, and just as she is about to be killed, Borak's cockroach appears out of nowhere to swoop her away. Usio is shocked when he sees this because he wasn't expecting the cockroach to still be mobile. Borak rides the wave on this, reminding Usio that cockroaches can still move with just a few legs and antennas. He then reveals that in their dying moments, they release octopamine, which grants them a burst of amazing speed. Borak mentions that in that moment, the cockroach's speed is 10 times its regular speed. Borak is desperate and eager to show Claude what it means to be pushed to the wall. When Usio hears this, he realizes that the cockroach will be too fast for the enemy to even track it. Borak confirms this, saying he can basically dodge any physical attack, and with this, he can get close to create an opening for them so that Usio can attack with his knight. Borak boasts about how the cockroach is the fruit of his lifelong research and effort. He names the technique the Annihilation Dash, and he activates it, ready to push Eli toward the enemy. However, the internal pressure from the cockroach causes it to explode into pieces. Usio is mortified when he sees this, and Borak, on the other hand, wears a face of disappointment. Without a doubt, Borak admits that they are screwed. Claude makes sure to finish the cockroach off by crushing the red jewel. Usio cannot believe what is happening right in front of him. He realizes that Borak has never used the technique in battle before, and Borak admits to this. Even with the failure, Usio believes that Borak's technique can actually become an incredible weapon because anything moving so fast is always hard to counter. Usio realizes that Borak would have left the bronze rank a long time ago if his technique had worked out. On the other hand, Claude is mocking them, telling them to maintain their role as villains in his story. Since the cockroach is out of the fight, he tells them to get ready for the next act. He decides to increase the tempo of the battle, and he goes after Eli harder than before. Realizing that Claude is gaining the upper hand, Eli retreats to avoid getting skewered. While Claude is increasing the intensity of his attacks, his teammates are making sure Eli is not having a comfortable time in the arena. While trying to get away, Eli gets hit with a bright light from one of the knights, launching her into the wall. Eli is still trying to get herself together when the second knight hits Eli with a bright red light. Apparently, the red light is a melting ray, and if exposed to it for more than 3 seconds, the target's flesh will melt away. The moment Eli and Usio figure this out, Eli gets back on her feet and dashes away from the target area. However, she gets hit by the white light again. Before she knows it, Claude is already onto her, making life difficult for her. When Borak sees all that is happening, he concludes that they are done for and have no chance whatsoever. Usio is worried, and he tells Eli that the only chance they have is to create a variable, no matter how hard it seems. Eli then asks him what they can do, and Usio urges her to use her fist. He urges her to trust him concerning what he wants to tell her. He suggests that she hit the floor diagonally at a 45-degree angle. Eli does as told, and she crashes the floor with her fist, turning the flat terrain into a rough one. Claude is shocked and impressed at the same time. Usio had come up with a genius move to impair the enemy attacks by changing the shape of the floor. With the terrain now in her favor, Eli goes after Claude's knight. She delivers several punches to the knight's body since it no longer has the opportunity to glide around the arena like before. Claude freaks out, and he screams at his teammates, telling them to support his knight. The other two let him know that they are having a hard time moving, thanks to the debris. Claude panics because he can clearly see that with the way things are going, his knight is going to end up dead. Just as he predicted, Eli gets the upper hand and overwhelms his knight. With nothing else for Claude to do, he watches in horror as Eli shatters his knight's heart, ultimately killing it. Borak cannot believe his eyes when he sees this, and he realizes that they finally have some semblance of hope. At the same time, taking out Claude's knight gives Eli the boost in confidence that she needs to hunt down the other two knights. When talking about a knight, it means nothing but a lump of flesh to some necromancers, but to some, they are beautiful, and an example of this type of necromancer is Claude. Claude cherishes his knight so much because to him, it is more than just a knight, but his second self. Claude crashes to the ground in despair as he watches his knight die in Eli's hands. His body can't handle the shock, and he starts choking, forcing the medical staff to rush over to his side. The medic checks on him and announces that it is not life-threatening because it is a temporary shock. The staff then tells the other two to continue the match. Bertor tells his teammate that they might have a chance at winning because the opponents have lost a lot of attack power too. The dude then kicks his knight into overdrive to perfectly see the enemy. He watches as Eli dashes toward him unarmed, and he mocks her. He immediately activates his fusion light, but just as the light is about to hit Eli, she whips out the knight's body she just defeated and uses this to block the attack. Using this as a shield, she makes a break for Bertor's knight. She crushes the knight, and after this, she goes after the knight who has been shooting beams of light at her since the battle started. However, Seren's knight has a secret weapon that she is hiding. Just as Eli is about to reach the knight, she fires a giant arrow at her. At the last minute, Eli is able to block the arrow with her left arm, and thanks to this, she survives the arrow. However, Eli's survival means a huge problem for the enemy team, and she dashes toward them again. The knight continues shooting beams of light at Eli, hoping to take her down, but she dodges everything and cuts off a huge chunk of the enemy knight. Seren panics and asks Bertor if his knight can still move. Bertor reveals that he has just a burst of energy, and Seren figures out their best play. She tells Bertor that she is going to pin Eli down, and Bertor is going to melt her to nothing with his knight. Seren is ready to sacrifice her own knight as long as they are able to get rid of Eli. They kick their plan into motion, and just planned, Eli gets trapped, and Bertor's knight unleashes its ray of light on the trapped Eli. He puts all of his strength and power into the ray burst, and it starts to melt both Eli and Seren's knight together. Out of nowhere, Eli hurls a spike at the knight, destroying its light-producing ability. Bertor tells his teammate that he is already at his limit, and Seren believes that they still won, since the light ray lasted a while. Suddenly, Eli emerges from underneath the knight with her left arm gone and half of her mask melted away. She angrily dashes toward the knight with ray abilities and destroys it, ultimately delivering a fatal 1-3. The moment the crowd realizes that she has won, the entire arena erupts into a loud noise. Uzu cannot believe his eyes when he realizes that people are actually cheering for him. This feels like a stream of holy water washing away his filthy body, and his left arm gets washed clean of the filth. Uzu screams out in return, roaring his name for them to hear. He tells them to remember his name because he will soon become the best. After the battle, Uzu confronts Aira for doing nothing during the battle. He pushes her to the wall, saying they would have at least had things easier if she had helped. He demands an explanation from her, and he wants it to be a good one, or else he promises to end her. Even with his threats, Aira simply pulls out her note and scribbles in it just like she does. She reveals that the cat doesn't listen to her because the cat's master is the cat itself. Uso is stunned by what he just read, and he asks Aira if she is the cat master or not. Aira casually replies that she is not, saying the cat only does what it wants. However, Usu doesn't want to believe the crap that is coming out of her mouth. Usu then asks her why she joined the War of Corpses, and she simply replies that it was the cat that wanted to come. Usu almost burst out from the intense rage that he is feeling inside of him. Usu reminds Aira that he is risking his life in battle. He lets Aira know that he is going to kill her and the cat if anything happens to Eli because of their incompetence. Usu then turns around and leaves, but the cat just remains its usual, cute, and adorable self. On the other hand, Borak is completely blown away by the fact that Usu was able to create a way out of nowhere, even when things seemed to be over. Borak had given up, but Usu basically shows him what it means to be a reckless youth. Borak stands in front of the mirror to check out his wrinkles, and it dawns on him that he is actually getting old already. Borak checks out the remaining money in his hand and figures out that the money will be enough to feed him till whenever. However, he also needs to buy new materials to make his knight again. He is thinking about what to do when he spots a stall selling delicious finger skewers, and he buys one. He takes the finger skewer to his crush, Dora, who wonders why Borak keeps giving her gifts even though he is broke. In his defense, he tells her that he is aware she loves it and cannot pass by without buying her one. He also assures Dora that she has nothing to worry about because his signature technique is almost completed. Dora becomes excited when she hears this because she believes that Borak has finally nailed it. Borak then reveals that he managed to gather enough power, but the knight exploded from internal pressure. However, he believes that he has found a way to make things work the next time. With a bright smile on his face, he tells Dora that he is definitely going to make it work this time around. Just then, Dora tells him just how excited and lively he always looks whenever he is talking about the War of Corpses. She lets him know that this is badass, and this forces Borak to blush really hard. Borak tries to contain his emotions, and he tells Dora that he has a long way to go, but he is pretty sure that he is going to make it work this time around. Dora also cheers him on, telling him that he can do it. She assures him that no matter what, she will always be there to cheer for him. With Dora's encouragement, he returns to the workshop to work on his knight. He keeps on reminding himself that he can actually get it done this time around. Suddenly, the self-doubt kicks in, and he starts wondering if he can actually succeed. This pushes him deeper into his shell, as he wonders when it became so hard for him to imagine himself succeeding. He realizes that even in his dreams, he is never the one getting the flowers and applause. He wonders if this time is going to be different, or if it would be better for him to just give up when he still has the chance. Just then, it dawns on him that he is going to be a total failure if he gives up. There will be nothing left of his legacy, and he will be remembered as the loser who wastes 30 meaningless years. Determined to change his fate, Borak decides to keep on pushing and make sure that the 30 years that he struggled didn't go to waste. Even though the future looks bleak, Borak is ready to dive in and turn everything around. Elsewhere, Eli checks the extent of the damage that she suffered, and in this moment, Uso decides to be cool by telling her that her hair looks fine. He adds that Eli looks gorgeous because of her hair, and Eli tries to shut him off by telling him to stop saying things like that. Usyu, unable to read the room as usual, tells her that she is free to cut the hair if she doesn't like it, since this is what he does to his own hair. Eli then says she can't go to a salon to cut it, and decides that trimming the end of the hair is fine with her. Usyu assures her that he can help her trim it, and he urges her to trust him just like she does in combat. Eli then hands him the scissors to help her with it. Moments later, Usyu tells Eli that he is done with it and he shows her through the mirror. He asks her if she likes it, but she remains silent, shocking Usyu. He asks her why she is silent, but she wears a shocking and displeasing face instead. Eli screams at Usyu, telling him that he cut the hair in the worst way. The end looks totally bad, as if a rat chewed it off. Usyu doesn't see anything different, and he claims that it looks the same as before. Eli screams at him, telling him that it was straight before, and this is because she cut it evenly herself. However, Usyu just hacked at it, like the way he does his own ugly hair too. Usyu feels bad about this and tells her to hold on while he fixes it up for her. Since Eli wants it evenly, he places his hand on it and tries to cut it evenly. However, he ends up cutting it up like a fishtail. Eli cannot believe that he just made it worse, and she tells him that he is supposed to match the length on both sides when he cuts it. Usyu still believes in himself, and he tells Eli to give him another chance to fix it up. Usyu gives it another go, but he messes it up again. Eli then tells him to do it again, and again, and again. Before she knows it, Usyu has completely ruined her hair. Her hair has become short and in the worst way. She screams out in pain, asking him what the hell he has done to her hair. Usyu apologizes, saying he was only trying to fix it. Eli gets mad and walks away, telling him to keep his mouth shut if he doesn't know what to say. Eli blames herself for trusting Usyu, even though she knows that he is a dumbass. The following morning, Eli wakes up to a subtle rustle behind her. She immediately stands up from the bed and turns around to see Usyu crouched behind her. She screams at him, asking him what he is doing. Just then, she looks closely and realizes that he is holding a bowl in his hand. With a smile on his face, he tells Eli that he has figured it out. He reveals that the organic adhesive necromancers use in crafting knights also works on hair too. Usyu says it might be a little short and not perfect, but it is still coming together. He believes that if he just attaches about 1,000 more strands of her hair, it should come out nicely. Eli is shocked when she hears this, and this is when she realizes that Usyu has stayed up all night, attaching thousands of hair strands one by one. Eli asks him why he is overreacting, and Usyu tells her that he already assured her that she can trust him. Usyu mentions that they are risking our lives, and because of this, he is going to keep his promise that no matter how her hair turns out, it is not going to hide her beauty. Eli almost loses her mind from the riz, and she urges Usyu to stop saying things like that. However, Usyu's sincerity and hard work get to her, and she allows him to continue attaching the rest of the hair strands. Later on, the players are seen discussing in a pub, and they talk about Usyu and his knight, who were able to 1v3 the other team. The players who are aware of this are all impressed because it is Usyu's first time competing too. Breaking Ral's wall also comes as one of the incentives that they talk about in their discussion. All those who witness the fact cannot but admit to Eli and Usyu's greatness. One of the players describes Eli's appearance, and Neiran was just passing through at that moment. He immediately jumps into the conversation, asking them the name of the necromancer. The dumb bunch then tells him that it is us. Even though Neiran thinks it's a weird name, he still thanks the group for the information before leaving. The group stares at him like some kind of weirdo. Neiran is completely lost in the thought of how he is going to find Eli, which prevents his dumb senses from telling him that he has reached a pole. Before he knows it, he crashes into the pole, hitting his head really hard. Shortly afterward, Usyu informs Eli that all they have until the next match is 9 days. He lets her know that they have some major problems on their hands that they need to solve before then. Eli is curious about the said problems, and Usyu tells her that the #1 problem is the naming of their techniques. Eli is shocked when she hears this, and she demands to know why this is even a thing. She tries to remind him that there was someone who was busy shouting, spinning axe while they attacked, but Usyu doesn't want them to do things that way because he believes that they are not animals. Usyu explains that naming their techniques is going to give it the identity that it needs. Usyu also reveals that the right name helps people to remember the player. Usyu glazes the idea, saying it is a pretty cool one. He then reveals that he has already come up with a name for the signature move. However, Eli's disinterest in the whole issue forces Usyu to move to the next problem that they have on their hands. Usyu says he has been analyzing her punches from multiple angles, and he couldn't even block them. He reveals that they are sure to win as long as they are able to land a solid hit from close range. However, it is common knowledge that knights are monsters who are beyond human limits. Usyu says landing a clean hit is not going to be easy because the knights are blessed with insane speed and agility. Usiu says they have been relying on terrain advantages so far, but he doesn't want them to continue with that. He tells Eli that the most important thing on their list is to find a way to close the distance in one explosive move. Eli agrees with him, saying if they are able to close the gap quickly, they have the whole thing in the bag. Since Usiu keeps mentioning a technique, Eli asks him if he is talking about her left arm. Usiu says yes, but reveals that real techniques are even more complicated. Eli is confused when she hears this, since Usiu has already modified her arm. Usiu reveals that what he did was nothing but a basic step-level modification, which barely qualifies as a technique. Usiu explains that a proper technique means totally redesigning the biological structure using materials from special creatures or data from elite fighters. This kind of modification usually takes months and even years. Eli is surprised when she hears this, and Usiu decides to cite an example of what he is talking about. After hearing this, Eli cannot but agree that being a necromancer is quite complicated. Usiu confirms this, but lets her know that once the design is complete, it is easy to replicate, which is why necromancers don't change a knight's body once it's made. In addition to all of their problems, they are also broke. Nonetheless, he believes that they have to gamble on high-risk, high-reward materials, even if it has a low success rate. And to follow through with his suggestion, Usiu already came prepared. He brings out a box with an unidentified item, leaving Eli totally curious. When Usiu shows the item inside the box, Eli screams at him, asking him what the creepy thing is. He then reveals that it is the leg of a creature called a deaf gust. Eli is surprised, since it is her first time hearing of such a creature. Usiu then explains that they are a type of insect that only inhabit a place called the Black Mountain. On the said mountain, there are deep and slippery pits full of methane and hydrogen sulfide. Apparently, when they are inside this pit, they grow up safely by eating slimy moss and bacteria colonies. But when they become adults, their internal pressure rises, and their internal organs begin to require oxygen. Because of this, they are required to escape for survival and reproduction. During their juvenile period, they use all their strength to create these legs, and they risk their lives to jump. They are about to climb out of the several-kilometer deep pit using this. Eli is enjoying the lecture, and she figures out that the insects need the legs to leave the cradle and become adults. Usiu confirms this, saying a deaf gust can jump hundreds of meters at once. Because of this, every one of its fibers is different, making it hard to manipulate. Instead of using it as a leg, they often use it to support or reinforce the torso. Because of how complex it sounds, Eli asks Usiu if it is even possible to design and manipulate it within 9 days. Usiu admits that it might be difficult for an ordinary human, but for someone like him, it is not impossible. Since he is confident in what he can do, Eli tells him that he should have just designed it from the start. Usiu explains that he didn't have the financial stability because he was making Eli at the time. In addition, he believed that it would be too difficult if he did. Usiu reminds her that it was difficult for them to even coordinate their walking at the start of everything. However, he needs to make this work, since it is absolutely necessary for the outcome of their match. He urges Eli to trust him, just like he usually tells her. Usiu is prepared to show her the skills that he has accumulated over the space of 10 years. 5 days after he boasts about how good he is, Usiu is busy sweating while trying to fix the deaf gust leg to Eli's leg. Usiu cannot believe that he is encountering so much difficulty, and he concludes that he is so screwed. Eli hears this, forcing her to ask him if she can still trust him. Usiu assures her that he still has it under control. He reveals that the problem is that the muscle fiber arrangement is different from what he expected. Even though everything appears to be totally out of his control, he is not ready to give up. Just then, Eli talks about how much Usiu has improved when it comes to moving her limbs. She also noticed that he has been moving it without even looking. Usiu says this is possible because he has been researching her body every single day. Eli is shocked when he says this, and she asks him what he has been researching. Usiu cites examples of what he has been taking notes of, like when and how she laughs, the way she even walks, and every one of her daily habits. He reveals that whenever she is angry, her left eyelid twitches slightly, and when she is on her feet and thinking of something, she practically taps the floor 3 times with her heel. He adds that whenever she is tired, she shrugs her right shoulder, and before she sleeps, she turns around and picks her nose once. Eli screams out when she hears everything that he listed out. Eli thinks it is over until Usiu mentions that he has been looking at the microcurrents that he feels every time he moves her body daily. He has taken note of everything because he is eager to help her move naturally without having to look. He tells her that without the things he has done, he would never be able to become her perfect arm and leg. Eli is totally blown away, and she asks him if everything he has done so far is to win the war of corpses, and Usiu says yes. Nonetheless, he assures her that if it is her wish for him to remain by her side until he dies, he is going to do so. Eli fights really hard to contain her emotions because of the subtle romantic things that Usiu has been saying to her without even realizing it. 4 days later, Usu shows up at the arena, looking completely sleep-deprived. Borak notices the changes on Eli's right leg, shocking him. Borak can't believe that he actually made the leg out of a deathgust. Borak commends Usu, saying it might be a bit crude, but it seems like it is going to do the job. He asks him if he has tried it out yet, but he says no. Usu reveals that he just finished crafting the leg 30 minutes ago. Borak takes a closer look and he tells Usu that he is quite talented. Borak then assures Usu that he is going to be better in the current round. Tired, Usu has no choice but to beg the dude to show him what he's got. Moments later, the host welcomes everyone to the second match of the second preliminary round. Eli asks Usu if they are going to pass the preliminary round if they manage to win the current match, and Usu says yes. Eli is worried about the leg, reminding Usu that it seemed unstable when they tried out earlier. Usu admits that he didn't have the time to perfect it yet, but he lets her know that all they need to do is hold out for a few rounds. Since they don't know who their next opponent is, Eli wishes that it were Kalina. Usu also says he would love it to be Kalina, but he lets her know that the probability is very low. The host then announces Usu and his team to the spectators. On the opposing side, they have Sabino, Rudin, and Belladir. Usu notices that the trio are all black rank. Since this is the situation they have found themselves in, there are two scenarios involved. It's either that they are unskilled necromancers who couldn't even pass the first preliminary round, or that they are true powerhouses competing for the first time. The first knight to be unveiled is a creepy creature with one eye. Even Usayu is surprised because he has not seen something like that in the past. Usayu can see that the knight has a form that perfectly hides the attack and defense patterns. To add to this, the overall finish appears to be of a high level. Usayu then tells Borak to go first, and Borak agrees to. He assures Usayu that he is prepared to show him the real him. The moment the referee starts the match, Borak unleashes his cockroach and he uses the annihilation dash right from the start. At the same time, the enemy team is prepared to counter whatever Usayu and his team have cooked up. Just as the cockroach is about to make its move, the enemy knight fires a high-powered projectile that shatters the cockroach in one go. Rudin smiles, telling his teammates that he has taken out the biggest threat, and the next on the list is Eli. Using her new attached leg, Eli is able to leap over the projectile and gain an opening to the enemy knight. Eli then prepares her powerful punch, ready to tear the knight apart. Because of the pains he has suffered over the years, Usayu has decided to name the powerful technique One Strike. Eli reaches the knight before it can react and delivers a powerful blow that leaves it in shambles. The crowd goes riot and they start cheering for Usayu. However, Usayu is not celebrating yet because he knows there are still 2 more knights to take on. Suddenly, everything turns bleak and Eli's voice screams through the communication device, asking Usayu what the hell he is doing. Even Borak is screaming at him to snap out of his zone, and when taking a closer look, it turns out that Usayu is under a mind spell. He is basically fighting his own teammate and not the enemy, just as he thought. Eli has pinned the cat down, ready to tear it apart. Borak tries to use hand signals, but Usayu is too deep in the mess already. Borak also cannot touch him because hand contact between players during the match is forbidden. Borak was the one who saw everything that happened. The moment the match started, the circular-shaped knight opened up, and something weird popped out of it that looked like a brain. The seemingly brain-shaped thing activated, and Usayu immediately lost his mind and began attacking his teammate. Borak can see that the Rudin is quite skilled because he was able to penetrate Usayu's mind pretty easily without even having to use an activation command. Eli is trying to get Usayu to snap out of the zone because she is literally about to kill the cat. Eli tries to fight it, but realizes that the force of her hand is stronger. She thinks of breaking her arm, but realizes that this would literally put them at a disadvantage later on. Eli is left wondering what she is supposed to do in this type of mess that they have found themselves in. Borak, on the other hand, is looking for a way to destroy the caster because this seems like the only way to get Usayu out of the bad zone. However, the other 2 knights are chasing him around, leaving him totally incapacitated. Borak thinks of using the annihilation rush, but at the same time, he knows that he is done for if the technique fails. Borak then screams at Era, telling her to run away because there is no other way. However, Era remains motionless until Eli finally overpowers the cat and cuts off its head, with Rudin smiling because he believes he has won. Suddenly, something crazy happens, and the cat starts growing back its head. This time around, it looks pissed, and its head has a bunch of eyes on both sides. In a sudden burst of speed, it overwhelms Eli, and Eli tries telling the cat that she didn't intentionally attack it. However, the cat completely overpowers her and starts to swallow her. Before Eli knows it, she finds herself in a strange realm. But before the cat can fully absorb her, it suddenly decides to let her go. Now enraged, the cat dashes toward the enemy knights. He goes straight for the circular-shaped knight, and the caster urges his teammates to protect him, since he is handicapped while he is using the mind control. The lady in the team offers to take on the cat, and she tells their last guy to focus on the cockroach. However, the cat is able to overpower her knight and it punches it to the ground thanks to its insane reaction speed. Even at this, the caster doesn't think the cat poses a threat to him. To take away his handicap, he releases Usayu from his mind control, and the moment Usayu comes back to his senses, he is shocked by the chaos going on around him. Borak is glad that he is finally back to his senses. He tells him that he has been attacking his own teammate because the opponent has mind control power. Borak then urges him to be careful, and this is when it dawns on Usayu that everything that happened was nothing but an illusion. This basically tells Usayu that the trio is not easy to deal with. However, he promises not to fall under his mind control again. Usayu then contacts Eli, telling her to get ready. Eli is glad that he has finally snapped out of the mind control zone. Meanwhile, the caster released Usayu from his spell because he plans to change his target to Era. He manages to get Era under her spell, but to his greatest surprise, the cat continues moving toward him. However, the bird knight intercepts the cat and pushes it to the ground. The bird controller assures his teammate that he is going to take care of the cat. When they asked about the cockroach, he revealed that it suddenly exploded and died. Borak is seen crying for yet another failure because he did everything right, but it didn't work again. When Usayu sees this, he realizes that Borak is out of the fight, and it is left to him and the cat to try and salvage something. Back in the arena, the bird knight prepares to tear the cat to shreds. The caster then talks about his mind control spell, which induces a frenzy state, making the opponent perceive their surroundings as enemies and attack them. This is why the technique is advantageous in the very beginning when the opponents are in close range. However, it is quite inefficient when they are fighting. He decides to do something different, and the circular-shaped knight starts to mutate, and a more humanoid-shaped knight emerges from it. Just before he gets the chance to show what the knight can do, Eli reaches him, and she delivers the one-strike technique, shattering the knight into tiny bits. The caster is shocked when he sees this, but at the same time he smiles because he is a maniac. Rudin descends from the stairs since his knight is destroyed and starts walking away, but his teammate screams at him to come back, since the match isn't over yet. The bird dude tells Rudin that he is already winning, and he urges Rudin to come back so he can give them instructions. Rudin smiles when he hears this, and he tells them that the necromancers they are fighting are not ordinary necromancers. He lets them know that they have already lost, and the only thing they can do is to get ready for the next match. However, he is thankful that they met Usayu and his team early on because with this, they will be able to win next time. The bird dude believes that Rudin is just saying trash, and he decides to prove to him that he is wrong. He puts so much power into his bird that it is able to tear the cat into two halves, ultimately showing just how strong he is. Suddenly, the upper half of the cat grabs the bird, shocking the bird guy. He wonders what the cat is trying to do, and before he knows it, the cat wraps itself around the bird and starts to absorb it. In no time, the cat completely absorbs the bird, shocking even Usayu himself. The cat completely eats the bird knight, leaving just a feather behind. The moment it has completely absorbed the bird, the lower half of its body starts to regrow, and it even gains wings in the process. Everyone is horrified when they see this, and Sabino is forced to say that what she just witnessed is impossible. It dawns on her that the cat eats other knights so it can imitate them. This is something she has never heard of before, and it doesn't even make sense biologically. Even Usayu is left sweating and questioning everything he knows. The cat showed some bizarre movements, and even restored its missing body parts by the amount of the opponent it ate. This basically means that the cat can design and reconstruct itself in battle. Usayu is totally confused because there is no indication of what type of material the cat is made of, and this further adds to the mystery of who exactly Ira is. Since Sabino is the only one left on the battlefield, the bird dude tells her that she can do the impossible because he has already figured out the opponent's moves. The bird dude glazes her, telling her that she is the only person who can defy logic among them. He tells her that she is the strongest among them, and hearing this motivates Sabino to want to do the impossible. She talks about how she has been hiding her true strength, but since the bird dude has found out, she is ready to show what she has hidden. She reveals that she was saving the technique she is about to use for the finals, but since they are back to a wall, she realizes that she has no choice. She makes a terrifying hand signal to pull her knight together and display a crazy amount of power, but before she even gets the chance to display whatever trash power she has hidden, Eli slices her knight in two. Sabino watches in embarrassment as her teammate, who believed in her, just walked away like he didn't just glaze her 5 minutes ago. The entire arena erupts in noise again as they cheer for Usayu, telling him that he is cool. The applause he got from the crowd again washes off the filth of his other hand. When they return to the back room, Usayu talks about how much he and Eli have gotten stronger. In fact, they appear to be in sync than before. But he confesses that Rudin is a tough dude to face. Usui cannot believe that he easily used mind control and even tried to change his attack pattern by evolving his knight. Usui admits that he is scared, but at the same time, he knows that they are going to face him one more time if they are to reach the finals. Even with all of his rambling, he notices that Eli is quiet, and he asks her if there is anything wrong. Eli then asks him how the whole thing about being a necromancer works. Basically, she is curious about the principle that makes a corpse move as if it were alive. Usui then tells her that there has been a lot of research on the methods and rules, but the principle behind necromancy is still a mystery. Usui notices that Eli is really curious about the whole thing, and he asks her why. Eli reminds him that the whole thing about the cat is strange, and Usui agrees to this. In addition, it was a type of knight that Usui had never seen before. He never believed that there was a knight who could imitate another knight just by eating it. This basically means it can continue getting stronger as long as it doesn't die. Eli then reminds Usui what he said about knights being mindless, moving masses of corpses. However, Eli doesn't think this is accurate because she still possesses her old memories and can even speak. She asks Usui how this is possible and the chances of someone experiencing a similar situation to this. Usui tells her that he doesn't know because he hasn't heard of things like this in the past. Usui then asks her again why she is suddenly curious about the whole thing. She reveals that when she was swallowed up by the cat, a strange substance scanned every inch of her body and it squeezed her really hard, as if it was trying to break every cell in her body. This was when she heard from somewhere within the cat's body a voice asking if it should eat Eli or not. Usui is shocked when he hears this, and he considers it something impossible. Usui says there is the possibility that Eli was also under the influence of the mind control. Eli lets him know that it wasn't a knight with that kind of ability, and she believes that there might be others like her. They are in the middle of this strange and scary discussion when they hear a knock on the door. Usui wonders who might be coming to their room at this time. He screams at the top of his voice, demanding to know who is there. However, the knock persists, and when he finally opens the door, he sees Ira staring down at him with her cold blue eyes, and this sends a chill feeling down his spine. Usui is forced to ask Ira what she is doing at his door, even though the match is over. Usui is scared that Ira is there to devour him because there is no one to serve as an eyewitness. Usui can sense another cat behind the door, and he wonders if it is the cat. However, it turns out to be Borak, and he pushes Ira into the room while wearing a celebratory cap on his head. Borak tells the team that he was able to pass the second preliminary round thanks to them. Borak even says the current year is different, and he believes that the current year is going to be his year. Usui is surprised that Borak brought Ira, and he asks him why he is there. Borak replies that they are comrades even if it is for a short space of time. Because of this, he believes that they need to celebrate. Usui then asks him if Ira agrees to it, and he replies that he only dragged her over since she wouldn't even say anything. Borak even says Ira is looking forward to it, but Usui doesn't see any sense of excitement from the girl. Usui is still freaking out from this when the cat shows up at the door, adding to his shock. Usui reminds Borak that they are going to have to fight each other in the end, so he doesn't see any reason for them to celebrate. Borak agrees to this, but tells Usui that fighting together earlier was fun. In addition, Borak says it's been a long time since he has done something together with others and believes that this is why he is excited. He mentions that all of his time in the War of Corpses, there wasn't a single time he had fun. However, being around Usui and Ira has given him a sudden burst of energy, which makes him feel like he has gotten younger too. In addition to this, he believes that he has finally reached the year he is going to win the War of Corpses. Usui disagrees with him, saying the championship is going to be his. Borak then suggests that they have a drink since they are both prospective champions. Usui reluctantly agrees, and after just one drink he is already drunk. The two start dancing around the room, singing boring songs, while Ira is busy playing a boring game. While the two are drunk, Ira has consumed 18 glasses, and she still doesn't feel a thing. Borak cannot believe that Usui is already drunk, even just after one glass. Borak starts talking about the New Age necromancer, saying they have it easy because back in his days, he was forced to pick out and trim every single maggot by hand. Usui doesn't care about this, saying he can also cope. In no time, Borak falls to his knees and starts bawling his eyes out. Borak talks about how much he wants to win because he has really suffered over the years. Usui also tells Borak the story of how he grew up eating trash. Usui says he spent his entire life eating leftover scraps that others threw away, while he was being ignored and called a piece of trash. Usui then speaks his favorite quote from Raphael, which talks about how one has the power to change one's fate. Usui starts glazing Raphael, saying he is the greatest necromancer and he wants to be like him. The moment Ira hears this, she becomes curious, and she asks Usui if he truly wants to become like Raphael. Usui replies that this is the most obvious thing about him because Raphael is the idol of all necromancers. Ira then asks him if he knows what happened to Raphael. And this question hits both Usayo and Borak hard. Borak believes that Raphael has earned a lot of money, and he is probably living well. Usayo also screams out, saying Raphael is an incredible person. Era then faces her note to scribble on it, but she wears a clear expression of anger on her face, and she ends up tearing up the note. Since the boys are drunk, Eli is the only one who notices the anger on her face and how deadly she looks. Elsewhere, the director is using the treadmill, and after just 16 seconds, he falls off the treadmill. The guards rush over to check on him, and judging from his skin and body tone, he appears to be suffering from a weird disease. One of his attendants tells him that he might die if he continues pushing himself the way he is. The director argues that there is no way he is going to become a better person if he doesn't push himself. Basically, the director is the one who grew the War of Corpses that had been on a decline into the world's top entertainment. He is known as a competent and cool-headed man. However, everything around him is wrapped in a veil, including his age, birth, and even his name. He is basically a ghost who has never had anything about him revealed. The director is considered to be a shadow beneath his long-brimmed hat. He is a man who exists, but cannot be felt. Later on, the director gets a summary of the noteworthy contestants in the tournament. The director is glad with what is presented to him, and he tells his subordinates that they are about to witness the most interesting tournament of all time. The director asks them about the progress on the final preliminary preparations, and they tell him that it is in the final stages already. The director is pleased to hear this because he has managed to create an environment where the players are all ready to fight till the death, with the promise of their names being remembered forever. Later on, while working on Eli's new leg, Usayo tells her that the rules for the preliminary rounds change every time, which makes it hard to prepare. However, Usayo believes that the best they can do is to maximize their mobility and endurance. Although he has now realized that they are facing a very critical problem, which is the issue of her deaf-gust leg. He has been trying to get it to work, and it breaks apart mostly after 3 uses. Nonetheless, Usayo is not ready to give up as he believes he now knows what parts he needs to improve on. Usayo fixes up the leg and suggests that they try it one more time. This time around, it stayed intact for 7 uses, and Usayo writes this down as a new record. As the training session continues, Eli ends up crashing into Usayo, and she pins him to a rock. Instead of worrying about himself, he asks Eli if she is hurt anywhere. Eli panics when she turns around to see Usayo's dislocated shoulder. Usayo doesn't put too much importance on this, telling Eli that it has happened a few times in the past. Eli disagrees with him, saying a dislocation is pretty serious, but Usayo doesn't really care. He tells Eli that she is currently the most important thing to him, and as long as she is safe, suffering a dislocated shoulder is nothing to him. Even Eli couldn't contain her emotions this time around, and her face turned red from blushing so hard. Later on, Usayo explains to Eli that after a deaf-gust risks its life to escape its hole, it immediately detaches its extremely energy-consuming, inefficient hind legs. This tells Eli that the deaf-gust only use their legs once in a lifetime, and then discard them. Usayo confirms this, saying the deaf-gust leg is low in durability because of this. Usayo then tells Eli that with everything he has seen so far, the leg can withstand up to 3 times. With this, Usayo says anything after 3 uses is a risk. Eli agrees that it is a risky gamble, but at the same time, it is too effective to be discarded. Usayo knows this and tells Eli that this is why they need to try and finish the match within 3 jumps. Eli then asks Usayo about the rules for the final preliminary round, which is going to take place the next day. Usayo replies that the rules are a complete mystery, so he doesn't know. However, there is a restriction for the final round. Apparently, the players have been asked to reduce the size of their knight to 5 meters or less. Eli is shocked to hear this, since there haven't been any regulations on knights since the tournament started. With this regulation, Eli fears that they have to fight in a narrow space. The next day, all the contestants gathered in the arena, and Usayo feared that the preliminary round could be a team battle. In addition, he wonders what the giant gate standing is hiding. The host soon makes their announcement, telling them that they are to leave their knights behind and slowly follow the guide outside. Usayo then tells Eli to stay behind while he follows the other players. Usayo finds himself walking among a bunch of people, which is something that has never happened. He realizes that he is getting suffocated thanks to the crowd surrounding him. The voice in his head doesn't make things better too, as he starts calling him all sorts of names. When Usayo realizes that he can't take it anymore, he frantically contacts Eli, asking her if she can hear him. However, there is no response from her, which tells him that he must have gone out of communication range. Usayo soon finds himself choking from this, and just as he is about to collapse, Borak touches him from behind to check on him. This is enough to help him snap out of his trapped zone, and Usayo heaves a sigh of relief because Borak showed up just at the right time. Borak then asks him what they are doing for the final preliminary round, and Useo replies that he suspects them to be preparing for some kind of team battle. Borak becomes worried when he hears this because he doesn't want to believe that all the players in the hall will be required to fight all at once. After they are done filling out their personal information and agreeing to the indicated terms, the attendant gives them the 2 items to put on. Useo asks him what they are, and he reveals that they are magic tools that they wear on their arms. One of them will display the remaining distance on the top and the current rank on the bottom. Borak is confused when he hears this because he doesn't know why this would be necessary. The attendant continues with his explanation, and he reveals that the device on their right arm is mainly for their safety. The director comes in, explaining that the device is a single-use teleportation magic tool. The director lets them know that the device is for an emergency situation or in case they forfeit. He mentions that as soon as the match is over, it will teleport the players to a safe area prepared outside. He finally reveals the reason why they are wearing the 2 devices, and this is mainly because of the location of the match. He confesses that the location is enclosed and dangerous, and he introduces them to the battlefield where the final preliminary round will take place, the 9,999 meter. This is basically a massive living organism, and it is considered the personification of hell. The giant gate opens, revealing what can be described as a large mouth, shocking all the players. Useo, on the other hand, quickly figures out that it is a passage, not a mouth opening. The director then reveals that there is only one condition to pass the final preliminary round, and this is to get to the finish line at the end of the intestines of hell. In addition, they are required to get their night through. He reveals that the total number of people who can pass through is based on a first-come, first-served basis, which is basically 1,000. The director lets them know that the moment 1,000 people pass, the intestines of hell will collapse and all remaining knights still trapped inside will be trashed. After explaining all the rules to them, he declares the hell race open. However, the director lets them know that any act of intentionally harming another contestant with a knight and acts of leaving the arena will be judged as having no will to continue the fight, which will result in a disqualification. The director informs them that inside the battleground, several eye-shaped magical communication devices have been installed to monitor their status and broadcast it to the outside. He urges them to prepare themselves well for the race that will practically unfold in hell. The players are all confused because this is the first time that they will be hearing of a preliminary round like this. Useo expresses his fear because if he fails to be part of the 1,000 people who make it out, Eli will die. This is nothing but a race where life is on the line. Just as the race is about to begin, Borak tells Useo to get on his cockroach. He tells him that even if he doesn't have access to the annihilation rush, it is going to be faster than his knight running alone. Borak is willing to help Useo because, thanks to him, he was able to pass the second preliminary round. Useo is willing to accept the help, but he tells Borak not to go back on his word later. Once the timer runs down, the whistle goes off, and the race begins. The players start rushing and running to get ahead of each other. The cockroach manages to keep up the pace, and Useo commends it, saying it might not be the fastest, but it is better than his knight. Borak admits that his skills might be lacking during fights, but in times like these, he is prepared to show Useo what he can do. After some minutes, Useo checks the device and realizes that they are currently in the 800s. He considers this a decent start given the fact that the entrance is crowded. As they move through the intestines, Useo notices that the walls appear to be moving as if they are alive. He wonders what they are made of, given the fact that the overall scale is enormous. Borak also notices that there are strange things up ahead, and he wonders what they are. Suddenly, they find themselves falling down a vertical passage. The host communicates with them, informing them that the passage is there to obstruct their movements. They are informed that there are special obstacles installed that will obstruct their movements for 10 minutes if caught by them. Useo realizes how dangerous this is because the match will definitely be over in 10 minutes and they can't afford to be caught by one of the tongues. One of the tongues comes flying at him, but Eli shows up right on time to cut it down. Useo then tells her that he is going to stay close to her because it is definitely over for them if he gets caught by one of the tentacles. Useo grabs Eli from behind and holds on tight to her. Eli can feel all of his body parts, and she tells him that he is too close, but Useo reminds her that he has no choice. Useo looks for paths for them to pass just to avoid the annoying tentacles. In the process, a tentacle comes out of nowhere, separating the two. However, the two manage to catch each other again. After struggling so hard to stay afloat, they finally reach the bottom of the vertical passage where everything appears to be calm. Eli asks Useo how far they have come, and he reveals that they are about 800 meters in already. And for their rank, they are in the 900s, which is getting really close already. Just then, Borak comes falling toward them too. Useo tells him that they are already falling behind, and they need to move fast. As the race continues, Useo asks Borak if the cockroach can fly, and Borak replies that he has not even perfected the annihilation rush, not to mention making the cockroach fly. Suddenly, they run into Wung, who tells Useo that he has been cheering for him. Wong then reveals that he followed Useo's advice, and he has made a beautiful face that he could think of. Because of the new face that he made, he has been able to make it far in the race. Wong confidently showcases his latest invention, asking Useo if he finds it cool. Useo and Borak almost fall off the cockroach because of what they saw, which is Useo's giant face on Wong's knight. The face even speaks, and this creeps the two out. Without thinking twice, they zoom off like flies. Wong chases after them, telling Useo to look at the face properly because he considers it to be beautiful. To prevent them from dying from fear, Borak puts everything he has into the cockroach's speed just to make sure they leave Wong in the dust. Once they are well out of Wong's range, he tells Useo that Wong's knight is horrible and it looks like something from hell. Useo cannot believe that Borak just said his face looks horrible, but Borak quickly corrects it, saying this is not what he meant. However, Useo cannot deny the fact that the monster is pretty ugly. In fact, he says he doesn't like looking at his own face. Borak argues with him, telling him that he actually looks handsome to him, and he asks him why he hates himself so much. The two believe that they are out of danger until Wong and his creepy knight appear behind them again. He screams at the top of his voice, telling them to look at the beautiful face that he made. Wong continues tormenting them, and doesn't look at where he is going, forcing him to run into a brick wall. Sitting on the walls are a bunch of holes, and they all look different and strange. The question burning on their minds is where they are supposed to go. Useo then tells Borak that they don't have time to delay because their rank is dropping quite fast. He suggests that they go through one of the holes, which appears to be the most ordinary of all. Borak takes his suggestion and they dive through the hole. Meanwhile, the spectators are following the race, thanks to the cameras installed everywhere on the battleground. The control room is also buzzing with a lot of activities going on, as the media team panics to make sure that they capture every moment on camera. To spice things up, they start looking for a player with a sad backstory, which will bring a tear to the eye of those who are watching. One of the staff members immediately takes this upon himself, saying he is going to look up the list of contestants without parents. On the other hand, the director's assistant lets him know that the public's response to the match is good. He adds that the rookie contestants' exposure and the corresponding audience interaction figures have risen to the target amount. However, there is one concerning part, and this is the fact that there are too many elements in the race, which can be attributed to luck. The dude is concerned that the media might eat them up because of this. The director then asks him if he thinks he got to his current position via his efforts alone. The dude replies that he might not be the best, but he has always done his best in the best possible way he can, which is why he believes that he is currently standing there. The director is pleased with his answer, and he lets him know that this is the reason he is sitting next to him. However, the director lets him know that his own case is entirely different because the biggest factor that contributed to where he is luck. The director says he is lucky to have been born in an era where his talents are useful. He also considers himself lucky to have met people who acknowledged him there. In addition, he was lucky to have parents who raised him, and all of these combined are why he believes that he is lucky. Nonetheless, he tells his subordinate that he wants to see the desperation of a human who can overcome fate. Basically, he is excited to see where human desire can push people to. The battle is basically a stage for humans who can show such greatness, and he believes that the audience will enjoy every bit of the insane journey. Meanwhile, as Borak and Useo continue to navigate through the hole, they realize that it is getting narrower, and this scares them. They don't want to imagine a situation where they will be forced to go back because the entrance is blocked. Borak then encourages Useo, telling him that they have come too far already and there is no chance of going back for them. Suddenly, they run into a player whose knight is stuck in the passage. She screams at the two, telling them to go back because she can't go any further. She suggests that they go back and find another route, but Useo disagrees, saying they have gone through 700 meters in the hole already. He says it is going to be a loss for them if they go back in an attempt to try another hole. Useo believes that they are going to be disqualified if this happens, and the girl screams at them, asking them what she is supposed to do. The girl talks about how much she has spent in the fight, but Useo screams at her, telling her that she might have spent money, but he is putting his own life on the line. He tells the girl that they don't have any chance of going back, and he suggests that she move her knight. Realizing that Useo and Borak will not go back, she decides to attack their knight with her own, since there is no rule banning fights between knights. Her knight shoots out a spiked tentacle that cuts down some of Borak's knight's legs. The girl is aiming to get them disqualified by removing their knight from the picture. Before she can make another move, Eli appears out of nowhere and cuts down her knight, ultimately killing it. The girl is shocked when she sees this, and she screams out in pain. Since she has no knight again, she is forcefully teleported out of the arena. This makes it clear to Borak and Useo that getting disqualified means automatic teleportation outside of the battlefield. Usuyu then asks Borak if his knight is still okay and can run. Borak reveals that the cockroach has lost a few legs, but it can still move. With this, they continue the journey again. Since there is no penalty for killing the girl's knight, Usuyu figures out that fights between knights are allowed. This basically means that there are a lot of variables that might appear during the course of the race. Moments later, they find an exit, and Usuyu reveals his relief that they don't have to turn back. As they are about to exit the hole, Borak says he hopes something advantageous is waiting for them, but they are met with a shocker instead. Sitting below them is what appears to be a long river, and the players are busy swimming. Borak suspects that the only requirement is to swim, but Usuyu begs to differ because, looking at things, he realizes that the players look like they are being chased rather than swimming. Borak replies that it is a race, so it is normal to appear as if they are being chased. Borak tells Usuyu that they are in the 900s, which means they can't fall any further in the ranks. Borak then asks Usuyu if he knows how to swim, but Usuyu says no. However, he is not worried because he believes that he has no choice but to figure it out somehow. With this, they dive into the river, and the moment they land in the water, Usuyu starts to drown. He almost dies from this until Eli grabs him, telling him to stop doing insane things. She lets him know that she would have asked for help instead of trying to kill himself under the guise of doing it himself. Eli then tells him to hold on to her left arm with his body, and she assures him that she will be the one to do the swimming. As they continue, Eli shows Usuyu how he needs to move so that things can be easy for them both. Usuyu then talks about how warm the water is. He reveals that he has never seen his mom before, which is why he doesn't know what a mother's embrace feels like. However, being in the warm water makes him question if this is how it feels. As they continue swimming, Borak says it would have been good for them if they had a knight that could fly. Suddenly, Borak senses something latching onto his leg. He pushes his head into the water to see a weird creature grabbing his leg. Borak screams out in shock, and this is when the information about the river rings out. They are informed that they are currently in the stomach of hell, and it was designed like the stomach of a creature living in hell. It doesn't secrete stomach acid to dissolve food, but in the depths of the water are parasitic mermaids that will hold on to their feet. These mermaids hold on to everything that moves in the water, but won't endanger their lives. Their job is to make sure that they stop the players from reaching their goal. The announcer then wishes the players good luck, hoping that they are able to escape the stomach of hell. This immediately creates a surge in panic, and Usuyu tells Eli to move quickly. However, Borak tells them that there is nowhere to run, since there is nothing but water. Just then, Usuyu spots what appears to be a rock in the distance, and he calls Borak's attention to this. He believes that the rock is a safe zone because there are other players standing on it. Usuyu then suggests that they move faster so that they can get to the safe zone. It turns into a brutal race for survival, and Eli manages to drag Usuyu to the rock just in time. Borak and his cockroach also make it to the safe zone alongside Usuyu. One of the creatures latches onto Borak, but Usuyu helps him kick it off. Usuyu cannot believe that they are telling them creatures cannot endanger their lives when they can literally drown thanks to the annoying mermaids. Borak is worried that they are screwed already since the water is completely overrun by the mermaids. Usuyu looks around to check out the exit, and he realizes that it is about 1 kilometer away. Usuyu says it will take them hours to get to the exit, while also fighting off the damned mermaids. Borak checks their ranking and realizes that they are in trouble because they have been pushed out of the top 1,000 already. Usuyu panics when he hears this, and he starts thinking of a solution to the problem. He thinks of using the Defgust leg to leap across, but he is worried that this might not work because Eli has not used the leg while carrying someone before. He then thinks about using players as bait, but he trashes the idea because this will only create enemies for him, and he is trying to avoid a situation where a group of players is hunting him. Before he knows it, he realizes that they are already falling so far behind on the rankings. The annoying voice in his head appears again to mock him, telling him that he has no chance from the start because he is nothing but a piece of shit. Suddenly, Usuyu spots the redhead from Kalina's team flying past them on her bird night while laughing and talking about how easy the whole thing is. The moment Eli recognizes her, she swings into action and leaps toward her. She grabs her knight, and Usuyu reminds the redhead of what she did. He lets her know that fights between knights are allowed, and he can easily order Eli to kill her knight because her hands are holding on to her knight's heart. Usuyu then tells her that she has to carry them to the exit if she doesn't want to be disqualified. The girl argues, saying her knight can't carry too much weight because it won't be able to fly. Usuyu then tells her that her knight is going to die, since he has nothing to lose in the first place. Usuyu is ready to get her disqualified, since he is heading down the path already. Eli is about to crush the jewel when the redhead screams out, telling Usuyu that she is ready to help, but she lets him know that there is a condition to it. Usuyu is surprised that even in her current state, she still has something to bargain with. The girl tells Usuyu that he has no choice but to follow her condition if he wants to escape too. and whatever her condition is, it puts Usuyu on his toes. Usuyu then asks her what her condition is, and she reveals that she can only take Usuyu and his knight. The redhead mentions that her knight cannot carry heavy things because the weight the knight can handle is about 200 kilograms. She makes it clear that only Usuyu and his knight can join her. The moment she says this, Borak quickly grabs Usuyu, telling him that he can't leave him behind. He reminds him that he has no chance whatsoever because he can't get through the river by himself. He talks about how weak and old he is, and in addition, his knight can't fly. Borak tries telling Usuyu that he brought him this far, and it is evident that they are both desperate to succeed. The redhead lets Usuyu know that he has no choice, and she lets him know that they need to move as fast as possible because they are falling behind already. Borak then tells Usuyu to take a part of his cockroach with him, since only the knight is required to cross the finish line. With fear of failure clearly written on his face, he begs Usuyu to help him out. Borak tells Usuyu that he doesn't want his 30 years to be for nothing. Just then, Usuyu pushes his hand away, telling Borak that he is sorry. He leaves Borak on his knees and he leaps toward the redhead. As they continue their journey, the redhead notices Usuyu's sad face, and she asks him if he is worried about Borak. The redhead lets him know that it is inevitable that he is going to make enemies, so things like comrades don't exist in their unfair world. Usuyu is tired of hearing the girl blabber, and he screams at the girl, telling her to shut her mouth and just fly straight. Usuyu lets her know that he is watching her, just in case she plans to backstab him. Usuyu then asks the redhead about Kalina, since they were teammates. The redhead reveals that she might have known Kalina for a long time, but they are not actually close. The redhead confesses that she only got close to Kalina because there was something to gain for her. She confesses that this is how she operates with people. It dawns on Usuyu that the redhead just sticks to people who are advantageous, depending on the situation, just like a bat. The redhead then says Usuyu might be mad about what happened the last time, but it is because of this that he is currently getting help. She even tells Usuyu that he is lucky to be with her, but Usuyu cannot believe that she is spewing total nonsense. In no time, Usuyu realizes that they are back in the 900s, ultimately showing why it is faster to fly. Suddenly, one of the stranded necromancers grabs the redhead's knight to restrict her from flying. The stranded necromancers demand that she carry them along. Usuyu is forced to come in, telling the stranded idiots that the bird knight can only carry 200 kilograms, which is already at its limit. Since they are of no use, the necromancer prepares to terminate the bird knight. However, Eli is not one to wait around to see what will happen, and in no time she slices down one of the enemy knights. The dude gets disqualified immediately, and this pisses his comrade off. He puts his all into his knight to make sure he grabs Eli, but Eli's leap technique helps her move closer and faster. She impales the knight, killing it, and sending the player back to the surface. Once the enemies are gone, Usuyu tells Eli to return so that they can continue the journey. Soon afterward, they reach the next checkpoint, and Usuyu tells the redhead that he is going to forget about what happened in the past because she has helped him out a bit. The redhead also commends Usuyu, telling him that he is also incredibly strong. The girl then introduces herself as Nia, and she suggests that they become friends. Usuyu looks at her with no definite expression and tells her that she is free to do whatever she wants. Nia also adds that she would like to have a meal with him after the preliminaries. She assures him that all the bills will be on her. She starts asking more personal questions, like where he lives. And suddenly, Eli grabs her arm, shocking Usuyu. Usuyu mutters under the mask, asking her what she is doing because they are going to be disqualified if she harms Nia. Fear crawls through Nia's body as she stares into Eli's eyes, and she can see the overwhelming terror coming from it. Usuyu wonders why Eli is suddenly acting out of hand and risking a disqualification. Eli finally lets Nia go, and Usuyu apologizes to her, saying his arm moved by mistake. He blames this on the bad memories from his past, and he asks Nia if she is fine. Nia assures him that she is fine because she didn't grab her that hard. Nia then commends Usuyu, telling him that his knight is unique, since he claimed that his knight is made from human-like materials. She adds that the eyes look like they are alive, and she asks Usuyu how he was able to add emotions to them. Nia takes a closer look to see what emotions Eli is giving off, and she is shocked when she realizes that it is jealousy. Before they fall behind too much, Usuyu suggests that they get a move on again. With the race back on, Usuyu tells Eli that she was reckless, and he asks her what her intentions were. Eli replies that she doesn't like Nia, and Usuyu asks Eli if that is the only reason. Eli says it is hard to explain, but she just doesn't like Nia, and she asks Usuyu if he is actually considering going out with her. Usuyu replies that he might if he finds it necessary, since he is ready to do anything as long as it means winning. Eli comes clean, telling Usuyu that she doesn't like it. Moments later, they run into a section of the passageway where they have to deal with a strong wind. The announcer welcomes them to the lungs of hell, where powerful winds blow without rest. Just as usual, the winds are there to obstruct their movement, and to make it worse, there are creatures flying around. In no time, Nia finds herself struggling really hard to hold on, and just as she is about to lose her grip, Usiu grabs her. Usiu tells her to focus on controlling her knight while he blocks the wind. Nia is surprised by Usiu's sudden intervention because she knows the huge toll it is taking on him. However, Usiu assures her that he is fine because he has undergone a lot of physical work, so something like this is nothing to him. Usiu is ready to protect Nia with everything he has, since the ability to fly is pretty valuable. He is keeping her just in case they run into another section where they need to fly. While Nia and Usiu are holding each other tight, Eli is staring at them with so much killing intent. Moments later, they reach the next checkpoint and Nia thanks Usiu for his help because they were able to make it through because of him. Nia assures Usiu that she is not going to forget the favor later. Just then, they realize that they have the spine section where they have to climb up. The announcer reveals that they are in the final section before the end, which is called the Spine of Hell. They are required to climb up till they find the exit, but in case they fall, there is a cushion to prevent death. They inform them that as long as they have the stamina to climb again, they can resume the trial anytime. Nia confidently tells Usiu that they have nothing to worry about because the section appears to be one that requires flying. Usiu expresses his joy that he brought Nia along with him. As they fly up the spine, Usiu keeps an eye on the rankings and realizes that they are in the 800s already. He is confident that they can reach the exit with no problem, but suddenly he spots Kalina in the distance. Kalina screams out in rage because she thought Usiu was actually disqualified back then. Kalina angrily tells her teammate to make sure Usiu doesn't pass. The blue-head dude reminds her that they are on a tight schedule, and if they try to detour, they might end up getting disqualified. Kalina reveals her intention to bring Usiu down even if it means that she won't go through too. Kalina wants to make sure Usiu remains beneath her because he is nothing but trash. Kalina then tells the blue-head that if he can get Usiu disqualified, she is going to give him 10 times the reward. The moment the blue-head hears this, he changes his mind. The blue-head then screams at Nia, telling her to ditch Usiu, but she refuses, revealing that it is better for her to stick with Usiu. The blue-head is pissed when he hears this, and he decides to use force. He activates his knight's ability, which interferes with the target's vision. The blue-head makes fun of them, saying there is no way they can control their knight if they can't see. He tells Kalina to use the opportunity to attack them, but suddenly Eli appears in front of him. Before he can react, Eli slashes his knight. This shocks the dude because he doesn't expect Usiu's knight to attack since he has blocked Usiu's vision. The guy starts to panic because they are far in the air already, and he decides to use this to his advantage. Since Eli's movement will be restricted, he tells Kalina to attack, while the rest of the team cover for her. However, one of the dudes on the team screams at the blue-head not to order him around. Deep down, he doesn't like his teammates because he is only cooperating with them because of the money. He believes that he is the strongest on the team, and he decides to show them by taking on Usiu all by himself. However, Eli shows him how superior she is as she cuts down his knight before he can even make a move. The dude screams in horror as he is disqualified and teleported out. While trying to navigate through the vision-impairing skill, Usiu can feel Eli moving on her own, which is an advantage. However, he is worried, since Eli has used the leap technique 3 times already, and there is the possibility that the leg will explode randomly. Kalina is pissed that her teammates are pretty useless, even though they are all claiming to be strong. Kalina then decides to take action herself, and she tells her teammates to cover her. She tries to ram Eli with her knight, but Eli dodges with a backflip and slices off some of her knight's body. Enraged, Kalina unleashes projectiles at Eli, but Eli is too much of a threat for them. She easily blocks everything, and when the blue-head sees this, fear creeps through his body. The blue-head tells Kalina that it might be better for them to back off than to be eliminated by Eli because she is several steps ahead of them. However, this is exactly what Kalina hates because she considers herself above everyone else. Apparently, her father brought her up to look down on poor and trash people like Usiu. Her father had told her to always live with pride and superiority because she was born with it. Because of this, she disregards others and doesn't hold back in criticizing everyone. However, as her successful father's business started to falter and the number of bathrooms in her house started decreasing from 32 to 16 and from 16 to 6, she started feeling very anxious. Instead of putting in effort, Kalina acts nonchalantly because she believes that showing effort will only show that she is human and not superior like she claims. She started looking down on people who were putting in effort on what they are doing, while claiming that she can do everything that they are doing with little effort. She was basically hiding her anxiety while also protecting her self-esteem. However, she's about to face the harsh reality of things. Before she knows it, the blue head gets taken down too. Kalina soon finds herself facing her worst fear, which is the fact that Usiu, whom she has always looked down upon, is about to stand above her. The reality that she is not a superior being like she thought starts to become glaring right in front of her, and she screams out in severe horror. Eli goes after Kalina's knight and decapitates it, but instead of destroying the heart, she leaves it. Kalina is shocked and confused when she sees this, and she asks why Eli is not finishing her off. Usu then replies, telling her that he wants her to witness him climb to greatness. Kalina tries to act all cool by telling Usu that he has no chance to become a superior being. Kalina then asks him if he is truly different from her, and with anger burning inside him, Usu replies that he is different. But Kalina makes fun of him, telling him that his eyes say differently. She reveals that one of the reasons she hates him is because of his eyes. She reveals that Usu has the same eyes as her father. Realizing that the girl is already messing with him, Usu leaps off to join Nia so that they can continue the race. Usu is desperate to show everyone that he is different, including Kalina. Soon afterward, they arrive at the final section of the race, which is the intestines of hell. They are informed that it is a straight path of 2 kilometers. The announcer says the rules are simple because they are expected to just run quickly and pass through the exit. They are informed that close to 700 people have crossed the finish line already, and the race will end when 300 more people pass. Nia panics when she learns about the number of people who have passed already. Usu reveals that they wasted time fighting earlier. Because of this, they are barely hanging in the 1000th place. Usu urges Nia to fly even faster, and before they know it, the whole thing turns into pure chaos, with players struggling really hard to get to the exit. They are gaining the edge until another player webs them up with his knight so that they won't get ahead of him. Usu is enraged, and he promises the dude he is going to end him. The dude continues to interfere with them until Era and her cat appear out of nowhere and cut down his knight. The cat looks absolutely menacing, leaving Usu to ask Era how many knights the cat has consumed already. Surprisingly, Ira leaves Usu trapped in the web and continues on her journey. Before Usu knows what is happening, the number of finishers rises to 785. After struggling so hard, Eli finally manages to get Usu off, and Nia begs to be cut off from the web too. However, Usu refuses, saying there is no time to help her. Eli and Usu then continue the race, and they still have over 1 kilometer to cover. Usu realizes that running won't help them, and he tells Eli that they need to shorten the distance, using the leap technique. Eli then reminds Usu that she has used it 3 times already, and there is the possibility that it is going to explode if she tries it again. In addition, she will have to use it at least 3 more times if they want to cover the remaining 1 kilometer. Usu lets her know that they have no choice and they just have to hope their luck works out well. Meanwhile, Borak is still in the race, even though it appears that he can't catch up to the others again. At the same time, Kalina is still struggling with the spine section. Before Eli activates the leap, Usu tells her that they are going to lose communication the moment they are far apart. But as long as her arm and leg remain intact, he will still be able to feel her. Usu urges Eli to trust him and just charge forward. With the number of finishers climbing up to 850, Usu puts everything he has into the leap technique and activates, sending Eli forward. With just 1 leap, he closes a crazy amount of space, and Usu checks up on her to make sure that she is fine. She lets him know that she is good, and since 1 is down, they have 2 more trials. By this time, there were already 894 finishers. Usu is also running toward Eli, but he lets her know that the next leap might completely cut off their communication. Usu tells her that in case this happens, they have no choice but to rely on their senses to move. Usu asks her if she is up for it, and Eli reminds him that they have been practicing together this entire time, so she trusts him. Hearing this gives Usu some bit of reassurance, and he tells Eli to prepare for the next leap. And the moment Usu activates the technique, Eli can feel the snap in the Defgust leg. However, it doesn't break, and it still shoots her forward to a great distance. Meanwhile, Borak runs into 2 players who are resting because they believe that they have already lost. The 2 confidently say they still have a long time ahead of them and will compete again in the future. This pisses Borak off, and he asks them if they think there is going to be a next time. One of them makes fun of Borak, telling him that he is just an unlucky old fool, and there is no indication that they are like him. This eats deep into Borak, and he remembers his younger and motivated self. He remembers why he became a necromancer in the first place, and how painful it was when he experienced his first failure. Even though it was painful, he wasn't sad because he was pretty sure he could do better next time. He was not broken because he believed that there is a next time for him. His confidence later went down the drain, but he held on to the hope that he was going to succeed. Borak kept going, and before he realized, it was 10 years already. By the time he looked back, he realized that there was nothing but fragments of a dream he once loved, but now hated. Instead of happiness, only regret and longing remained for the choices he had made in the past. He keeps wondering where it all went wrong, and whose fault it is that his life turned out the way it did. He wonders if Usu is to blame, But then he realizes that there is just going to be one winner in the end, and he would have done the same if he were in his shoes. He wonders if it is the necromancer teacher who encouraged him not to give up, saying he had talent. However, he trashes this too, since they did nothing wrong. Borak finally comes to the bitter conclusion that he is at fault for being talentless and being so delusional that he couldn't face reality. Borak crashes to his knees in tears, saying he thought he could at least attain blissful ignorance of self-worth. Borak is completely overwhelmed, forcing him to question his creator and why he gave him such a strong desire but no talent to match it. Borak confesses that all he wanted was to shine, even if it was just once. Borak screams in pain, saying he would do anything to shine just once. Suddenly, a weird creature appears in front of him. When he looks closely, he realizes that his cockroach has caught up to him. Borak touches the cockroach, and since he has nothing to lose again, he decides to try out the Annihilation Rush. He touches the cockroach and activates the skill, and surprisingly, the cockroach dashes off at a blinding speed without exploding. Kalina is still climbing when a blinding light flies past her and continues down the path. On the other hand, Eli's second leap was also a success, and she is already seeing the exit in front of her. However, the communication has been cut off already, and suddenly she spots Ral struggling behind her. At that moment, there were 983 finishers already. Eli prepares for the next leap because she knows that failure to make the exit means she is dead. Just then, Useyu activates the leap, but just as she is about to move, the leg snaps and shatters. At that moment, Borak's cockroach catches up to Eli, shocking her. Everyone who saw the light is left marveled and puzzled as they don't know what it is. Unknown to them, it is an ultimate technique used by a contestant no one knew or cared about, and it is one he has poured his entire being and existence into. The technique only slowed down after the cockroach crossed the finish line with most of its body burned and even missing. It is as if the cockroach used up everything left in it to reach the finish line, and it finally dies off. The entire crowd goes wild when they see this, and they start taking an interest in Borak's story. With this, Borak, who was scared that his life was going to amount to nothing, became a shining light for the first time in his life. He shone brightly, even if it was just for a moment. However, the cockroach left a path of chaos behind as the shockwaves from the blinding speed trashed everything in the surroundings. Almost all the contestants passed out due to hearing loss, and it took them a whole lot of time to get themselves back together. Even though many contestants were injured due to the cockroach's speed, Borak was still given permission to proceed to the main tournament after a lot of contemplation. At this moment, there are only 16 spots left to claim, and with this, the preliminaries continued. In a situation like this, where mental strength beats physical strength, Useyu was the first to get on his feet. His ears were ringing and he had a piercing headache, but he continued walking because the pain from the headache was as bad as being called a trash fool. Motivated by everything he has faced, he started running with his vision still blurry and unstable. He kept going to escape those who looked down on him in disgust. Even though it felt like he was going to collapse and pass out, he kept going to escape the shadow of his father, who was always tormenting him. On the other hand, Eli also has just one leg, but she got back on her feet and started running toward the exit. However, the other players soon woke up too, and they began to go past the one-legged Eli. In no time, there were just 5 spots left for qualification. Wung shows up out of nowhere and uses his knight's long tongue to push Eli straight out of the exit, helping her get past those ahead of her. Thanks to Wung's help, Useyu qualified for the main tournament at the last minute. Even though Wung's help might not have been necessary, Useyu doesn't understand why he would go out of his way to help him when everyone was a competitor. Wung explains to Useyu that up until that moment, he has been fighting because he wanted to create the most beautiful face that would satisfy him. And since he has done that, he doesn't see any reason to continue in the war of corpses. He reveals that the next thing he wants to do is to become Useyu's #1 fan and cheer for him. Useyu asks him why he wants to do this, and he reveals that Useyu was the first person to ever offer him a handshake, and he lets Useyu know that he is a cooler person than he thinks. Useyu is shocked when he hears this, and he tries to debunk it, telling Wung that he is not as cool as he thinks. However, he assures him that he is going to become the best, so that everyone will have no choice but to acknowledge him. Useyu shows his determination to prove himself to the world, and Wung cheers him on, telling him that he believes in him and that he can do it. Useyu is glad to hear this, and he tells Wung to continue watching him closely. After this, Useyu meets with Borak to congratulate him on qualifying, and he lets him know that the Annihilation Rush was nothing but amazing. He also adds that he is sorry for leaving him behind, but Borak assures him that it is fine. He tells him that there was no other way because he would have done the same too. Since they are going to have to face each other if they make it to the end, Useyu tells Borak to put up a good fight. Borak agrees to do this, and the two shake hands to seal the deal. While some were winners, others like Kalina were the embodiment of losers, and with this, the preliminary round came to a close. Now that the preliminary round is over, what is next is the main tournament, and every player goes wild when the champion, Karen Crow, shows up to address them. The director welcomes the winners to the main stage, commending their dexterity so far. He urges them to set their soul ablaze and continue fighting as if it were their last day. He then introduces Crow to them, telling them she has a message for them. Crow takes the microphone, and while everyone was expecting some sort of motivational word from her, she calls them bugs and then drops the microphone. She turns around and leaves, but Usuyu wasn't even expecting something great from her in the first place. It is apparent that the players who have advanced to the main tournament get to enjoy various benefits, like their living expenses being covered for the duration of their participation in the tournament. In the current year's tournament, they can also sign sponsor contracts with other corporations to begin receiving support and backing from multiple investors. The players that have been sponsored by the corporations have the corporation's logo printed on their cloaks, and since each player can only get up to 4 official sponsors, corporations fiercely compete to get the best contestants that will represent them. They held a showcase before the main round began, and even though there were a bunch of corporations out there, there were still players who didn't receive a single sponsor offer. To get himself a sponsor, Usuyu visits one of the corporation's auditions, and the moment he steps into the room with the panel of judges, they analyze his entire life so far. The moment Usuyu hears that they are already talking trash about him, Usuyu turns around to leave, saying he has no intentions of carrying any corporation on his back in the first place. Just as he is about to step out of the door, one of the board members stops him and asks him if he thinks they are going to steal his spotlight because he got to where he currently is because he climbed there on his own. The board member reveals that the guard standing next to Usuyu was hired because he was the best in his field, and for him to be there, he had to undergo harsh training far beyond what ordinary humans can imagine. They let Usuyu know that the guard put in the effort to get where he is, and with this, his effort cannot be considered inferior to Usuyu's. The dude tells Usuyu that the world will value his effort more than theirs, and even remember him as a greater person. The dude says this will only happen because there is going to be a corporation behind him. This is a type of industry that was built on effort alone, and it was built over many years through the sweat and sacrifice of countless people. After telling him all of these, the dude tells Usuyu to learn humility because if he doesn't, his life will turn out just like his father's. Usuyu gets triggered when he hears this, asking the dude if he thinks he will become like his father, while asking him what he knows about his father. The dude then reveals that he knows a whole lot about his father, like how he was trapped in the past, unable to face the present, venting his self-hatred and helplessness on his wife and son, and always blaming others. In the end, he gave up and became the king of the garbage dump, making him a disgusting piece of human trash, which is the same blood flowing in his veins. Usuyu screams at him, telling him that he is different, and before he does anything rash, the guard tackles him to the ground. However, Usuyu lets them know that he is going to prove to them that he is different from his father, even if he has to sacrifice everything. The board members are impressed by his passion and determination, and the dude tells Usuyu to push through and burn everything to white ash. Because of his drive, the corporation, Berserker, later signed an exclusive sponsor contract with Usuyu. Berserker is a giant pharmaceutical company known for selling various potions that supposedly push human abilities to their limits. Thanks to the contract with Berserker, Usuyu was able to live in a larger, cleaner house during the tournament. In addition, they provide a brand new custom mask for him compared to the cheap one he was wearing before. When Eli got to the new house, she jumped on the bed and talked about how soft it is. She tells Usuyu that it is much better than their last place, and she can feel that they are gradually rising. Usuyu agrees to this and says it wouldn't have been possible without her. Because of this, he tells Eli that he is forever grateful. Eli then tells him that he is free to sleep on the edge of the bed, but Usuyu refuses, saying he will use the floor since Eli's comfort is top priority. Deep down, Usuyu is burning with rage because he is determined to break the curse of ending up like his father. Elsewhere, Raul is enraged because the number of fan letters has dropped by another 30%, and the number of articles about him has decreased by 40%. Even those that were published were all negative stories. Because it was hard for him to finish the 3rd preliminaries, all they are talking about is his decline. Sophie admits that the fan letters might have reduced, but she tells him that there are still many people supporting him. Sophie tells him that it might help if he reads the fan letters once in a while. Raul is not motivated by this because he believes that by winning, he will get around 10,000 fan letters. However, there is going to be a steady decline depending on his ranking. Raul doesn't think there is heart in the letters and assumes that they are nothing but numbers. He says that they are nothing but numbers moving according to his performance in the fight. And with the current numbers he is getting, Raul screams out in frustration, saying they basically point to the fact that he is a pathetic person. Since the main tournament has always begun with one-on-one matches, Raul talks about how important it is for him to win. Raul then asks Sophie who his first opponent is, and when he hears who it is, sweat runs down his face. When talking about the main tournament, it is usually set in a 1 versus 1 direct elimination format where a single battle determines victory or defeat. This basically keeps the tension high and creates excitement among the spectators, cheering on the necromancers. Since 500 players are going to be eliminated in the first main tournament match, many players consider this the most important and crucial round. Due to the fact that matches are randomly assigned, first-time participants or those with a lower rank are given one chance to decline a match. However, declining doesn't even guarantee an easier opponent next time. This is basically just part of the intense mind games, and Sophie lets Raoul know that his first opponent is Liviana. Raoul then asks Sophie about Liviana, and she explains that she is a 20-year-old player, also known as Lightning Libby. Sophie reveals that she is a diamond rank, but what makes everything unusual is that her first time in the tournament she was eliminated in the preliminaries, but then she went on to silver, then gold, then diamond. Since then, she has been on a continuous upward trend, and this sends a chill down Raoul's spine. However, he is still not worried, because Liviana is a rank below him. He asks Sophie about the results predicted by the media and critics, and Sophie reveals that they are saying he has a 90% chance of losing the match. The moment Raoul hears this, he internally loses it. On the other hand, Liviana is also panicking that Raoul is her opponent because of how strong his wall is. In addition, he is famous and has won the tournament before. Liviana's attendant confirms this but tells her that Raoul has been on a decline as of late, and she is confident that Liviana might have a chance. Nonetheless, she lets her know that her rank is lower and she refuses the match. Even though it sounds risky, Liviana is excited to take on Raoul because she believes that her fans would enjoy it. Her assistant was already expecting her to say this, and she let her know that she got some letters. There are about 30 letters, and there were also a few gifts attached to the letters too. Liviana is impressed and excited when she hears this, and she immediately gets down to reading the letters. She checks out each of the letters and she recognizes those who have been her loyal fans from the start. Later on, Raoul heads to his workshop and tells his workers to tear down his knight because he wants to redesign everything. Based on the data and information that he has gotten, he plans to redesign the knight into the most efficient and perfect knight. Meanwhile, Sophie is worried that Raoul might be making a mistake because he is obsessed with numbers while designing his knight. Sophie reminds him that the impenetrable wall was his philosophy, and he started out to prove something. Raoul then replies that he has nothing to prove again because what is most important are the numbers. He reveals that numbers never lie, and the numbers are saying he is currently failing. Soon afterward, Raoul and Liviana meet in the arena, and the crowd goes wild. Liviana waves to her fans, thanking them for coming, assuring them that she is going to do her best. Suddenly, everyone's attention shifts to the change in Raoul's knight. For the first time, his knight is not shaped like a wall, leaving everyone shocked and confused. It turns out that Raoul designed the knight based on the data he had accumulated, and he selected only the most efficiently matched materials. To him, he has created a knight perfect in both offense and defense. He might have been on a tight schedule, but according to the figures and data, it is perfect for him. By the rules, a knight's core cannot be directly covered by armor or body parts, and must be visibly exposed for others to easily see its location. After Raoul had checked various data, the most stable position he could place the core was at the head of the knight. This is a high position between 8 to 9 meters, which will make it difficult for enemies to reach. However, to make sure that it is safe, Raoul had created a movable shield hand to protect the core. Because of the recent stats that say long-range attacks are efficient, he has equipped his knight with a main weapon, which is a giant pendulum made from a 400-kilogram black dragon's calf bone. The weapon launches at a maximum speed of 30 meters per second to attack and destroy terrain features. In addition, he has enhanced offensive power by installing a compressed muscle long-range weapon, which is capable of rapidly firing a total of 240 bone spikes. To make it safer, he designed various weapon systems and defensive measures for close combat. To him, everything is perfect, thanks to the data he has gotten. He is confident that he is going to win the match this time around. Once the players are ready, the referee declares the match open, and Liviana removes her coat to reveal her red striped-lined body. Liviana makes the first move by activating her lightning strike and firing a powerful shot at the Raoul's knight. On the other hand, Usayu learns that he will be fighting a player named Popuri, and she is of emerald rank. Eli is shocked to see this, and she asks Usayu if he is going to decline because it is a pretty high rank. However, Usayu tells her that he has no intention of refusing because he believes that as long as he is with Eli, they can win against anyone. Eli smiles while agreeing with him, but Usayu reveals that he is bothered by one thing. He says the Popuri's title is the Fairy Queen Popuri, and from what he heard, she likes fluffy things. Since their match is a bit later, he tells Eli that they have plenty of time to prepare. At the same time, he wonders how Raoul is coping with his match against Liviana. Taking a dive into Raoul's backstory, he learned from a young age that the most powerful thing in the world is the will to protect something. This is what his father always told him, and as a stonemason, he carved stones to build walls. Because he was always taking his time doing this, he was slower than others, but he strived to create a perfect wall, more meticulously than anyone else. Raul believed that this was pathetic because his father was slow and couldn't earn as much money as others. And since he was always building walls, Raul barely ever saw his face. And one day, while climbing a fortress wall to repair a small crack, he tragically fell to his death, leaving his family behind. Then one day, it was raining heavily, and a catastrophic landslide happened in the village, which was truly horrible. Buildings fell apart, and countless people and livestock were buried alive so that they could even hear groans from beneath the ground for days. Surprisingly, his father's wall was fine and not a single crack was on it. Behind the wall were countless other people who were safe. This was when Raul realized that the wall was built by his father, who was stubborn and had difficulties expressing himself, and yet he had a heart full of love for his family. He wanted to protect his family, and this is why he built the wall, which is why Raul also started building walls because he wanted to prove that in the world, there can exist a wall that can protect someone and never collapse. The lady interviewing him was impressed when she heard this, and she admits that it is quite amazing. She tells him that he has a lot of supporters because of his conviction. However, she is worried that constantly sticking to the same core strategy is likely to become a weakness over time. The interviewer asks him what he is going to do if his conviction later holds him back. Raul replies that he knows where to look and fight. Now that Raul is facing Liviana, he finally understands what the interviewer was saying. Just one shot from Liviana leaves visible damage to his knight, forcing him to drop his 400-kilogram weapon. He doesn't waste time before combining this with the several spikes to try and overwhelm the enemy knight. Raul believes that he has the upper hand until Liviana unleashes a force field to destroy the spikes. This leaves Raul sweating like a goat, and he realizes that he has to land his huge weapon precisely without giving her room to react if he wants to win the battle. As the fight continues, he realizes that his movements are still unnatural, even though he did everything stat-wise. At the same time, the spectators have noticed this, and they realize that he is being pushed back. They are disappointed because the Raul of old would have given them something to cheer about even when he is losing. However, something about him feels totally different now. They conclude that Raul has become boring, and Liviana doesn't make things easier as she runs circles around Raul's knight. Raul can see that Liviana is trying to cut off his knight's legs because she can't reach the knight's head. However, Raul is not shaken because he already anticipated this, and he unleashes a vision-impairing technique. Liviana admits that Raul's skills are top-notch, even though he is using a hastily created knight. Realizing this, she figures out that it would be disastrous to underestimate him. In addition, she figures out that the bar displayed on his knight's head is the power output. She believes that the knight will be left defenseless once it uses up all the stored power. However, she has to incapacitate the main body to achieve this. Liviana realizes that she needs to fight Raul while calculating his final lightning strike, and this is what she does. She makes sure to exhaust Raul's knight completely. The moment she manages to tip the knight over, she goes for the kill, since the core is now exposed. Liviana unleashes her final lightning strike, but at the same time, Raul releases everything he has left, including the dangerous spikes. Liviana watches in horror as the spikes tear her knight apart with no way to counter. Raul, on the other hand, screams out in excitement the moment he realizes that he has won. After the battle, he walks through the lobby with so much pride because he won and disgraced those who said he was going to lose. He is glad that he proved the critics and media wrong by coming out best. He turns to Sophie, asking him what the people are saying about what they just witnessed because he believes that they should all be marveled. Sophie checks out the stats, and she tells Raul that he was on the defensive throughout the match. However, due to a critical mistake by Liviana toward the end, he was able to win. Sophie lets him know that this is what the majority thinks of his win, and this pisses him off totally. He can't believe that they are attributing his win to a mistake on Liviana's part. Sophie tells him that all the analysis points to the fact that he would have lost if Liviana hadn't made a crucial mistake. Just then, Raul hears Liviana crying in the distance, talking about how hard she worked just to have lost everything in the end. Raul then walks up to her, and she quickly pulls herself together while telling Raul that it was a great fight. Raul asks her if the loss got to her so hard that it is causing her to bawl her eyes out the way she is doing. He tells her that mistakes are also part of the game and excuses are not going to get her anywhere. Liviana tells him that he is right, but she is not only disappointed, but furious at the same time. Liviana mentions that the man sitting in the front row has always come to all of her matches to support her. There's also a lady in the stands who is heavily pregnant, but she still came to watch her fight. Liviana talks about how frustrating it is that she couldn't show everyone who came out to watch her what she is capable of. Raul then asks her why she cares so much about those who come to watch her because they are nothing but numbers that are driven by how good or bad she performs. Liviana agrees that this might be true, but she lets Raul know that she doesn't take the sincerity of those cheering for her for granted. Liviana then asks Raul what he is looking at when he is fighting. Raul wants to answer but finds it hard to say something, since nothing is coming to his mind. Realizing that there is no point to the conversation again, Liviana turns around to leave. As she walks away, Raul gets the feeling that he is going to see her one day, sooner or later. Elsewhere, Dora enters Borak's room to find it in a mess, and she asks him why this is. She says it's even worse than before, even after he made it to the main round of the tournament and got the shine that he has been craving for. Dora asks him why he is still living like trash, and he replies that since the preliminaries were over, he hasn't attempted the annihilation rush once again. Dora then realizes that he didn't fail, but he refuses to try it. She asks him why this is, and he confesses that the moment he tries the annihilation rush, he gets the same feeling of failure from his past. Borak admits that it was smooth the first time he succeeded, but now it feels like there is something unsettling stopping him. Basically, Borak is scared that he is finally getting a good life and even a sponsorship deal, but he knows that one mistake, and he is right back where he started. Dora tries to comfort him, telling him that he is not a piece of trash, but he argues, saying people have been looking at him like he is nothing for the past 30 years. Borak tells Dora that she's the only one who didn't know, and the fear of going back to such a trash life haunts him. This is why he is so scared to even try and get his night back together. Elsewhere, Useu arrives in the arena for his match, and the people are cheering him on. Useu is loving every bit of the attention that he is getting until Eli calls him back to reality. She reminds him that their opponent is skilled and they need to focus. Useu agrees because Popuri is famous as a beast-type brawl necromancer. However, she has a new strategy at the main tournament every time, and Useu tells Eli that they will have to wait and see. Eli is still asking why Popuri is so famous when Popuri appears in a true beast-type fashion, and the crowd goes nuts. Taking a dive into the backstory of how Popuri got her beast form, there was a company that makes furry potions that make humans transform into beast form for 5 hours without any side effects. The company advertised this so well that they even showed how it works on TV. When Popuri, the lonely girl, saw it, she became invested in it. By using the potion, she now appears on stage looking like a beast of her own choosing. The whole crowd is rooting for her to win as she has the charm to captivate them. Popuri then assures her fans that she is going to show them what she is made of. Popuri unveils her knight, who looks absolutely dangerous, and it wields a spiked whip. Without wasting time, she hurls the whip at Eli, barely missing her head. Useu urges Eli to be careful because the whip has the power to tear her apart if it hits. Eli tries to get closer, but Popuri changes the trajectory of her whip and makes it spiral, ultimately knocking her backward. However, she's able to block the hit thanks to the shield attached to her arm. Eli then activates the leap, aiming to close the distance once and for all, because Useu believes that they can find an opening no matter how threatening the whip appears to be. However, things don't go their way as the whip latches onto Eli's leg and smashes her into the wall. Eli tells Useu how weird the whip's movement is. She is also confused by Popuri's style of fight, since it is said that she is a beast-type necromancer and she has no business wielding a whip. Popuri can see that Eli and Useu are shocked at the way she has handled them so far. She assures them that her whip is a product of years of training that she has perfected. She mentions that it is a weapon befitting of a queen, and the moment she says this, the whole crowd goes wild again. Some of her fans start saying all sorts of weird things, like begging Popuri to scold them with her whip. Popuri rides the waves as she tells Eli that she is not allowed to come close. So because of this, she should stay where she is until she perishes. Popuri continues swinging her whip at them, forcing Eli to ask Useu what the plan is before Popuri sends them to the afterlife. Eli suggests that they use leap, but Useu advises against this, saying they have just 2 more guaranteed uses, and if they get caught, it's going to be a waste. Eli then suggests that she destroy the terrain with her fist just like before, but Useu says this won't work, since Popuri has a long reach on them. Since these 2 options are out of the question, they have just 1 option left. Eli continues charging toward Popuri, but she keeps them on the defensive. Even with this, Eli doesn't sense any fear of losing in them. This is because they have trained together, eaten together, screamed at each other, spent time together, and finally, they trust each other. Just then, Eli and Useu's plan works as Eli is able to grab the whip with her shield. It turns out that the mouth of the shield was made with the jaw muscles of a saltwater crocodile, and to put it into perspective, the crocodile's bite force is 150 times more than that of a human. It's slow and hard to grab on, but the moment it does, there is no letting go. Now that Eli has caught on to the whip, the real test of strength between the two is just about to begin.